Oh, man. Happy Brad Pitt Day. It's decided on Elevator Pitch that this is now a federal work holiday called Brad Pitt Day.
Yeah.
Because we're back on Elevator Pitch. Mm-hmm. We are talking about Mr. Pitt in 2019, the only podcast that pitches fake movies to Brad Pitt after his Oscar win in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Let's call it 2019 before the world shut down.
Sure.
We are doing this because we are talking about the movie Formula One, which on IMDb is called F1 : the movie. Let the record show. And this is the new Jerry Bruckheimer car racing epic.
Joseph Kosinski.
Yes. So let's fucking go. I was trying to think of some racing puns to put in there, but my brain's going a little slow this morning. It's 11:48, by the way.
I think you crossed the finish line on that one. F1 saw it this past weekend.
Yeah, man.
With Grant Oliphant.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Friend of the pod, me and Grant Oliphant, we went and saw it.
I guess we can jump right into the movie before we get on Pitt there.
Yeah.
And kind of let that roll into a Pitt conversation.
Yeah.
One of my favorite actors to discuss.
To set the record straight.
Just let the record show I like talking about Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
I like talking about his movies.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 of them in the last 3 days.
You've had a great 3 days.
I rewatched Babylon and I rewatched Fight Club. That was kind of my...
I watched a bunch of Babylon clips yesterday.
Did you?
I was because it kept...
That's probably a smarter way to do it.
Well, it just kept recommending them to me on YouTube, and I was like, I remember liking that scene.
I was there in the vaudeville houses. I like when he says that. Anyway, but let's talk about F1 first.
Yeah. F1.
F1. It's a movie about F1, Formula One racing. People are talking about it. It's made a ton of money.
Yeah.
A lot of people are seeing it. And I don't want to ask you specifically, Will, what did you think about F1?
Sure.
Because I feel like that's not the interesting question here.
Sure.
I'm not sure what the interesting question here is. So I'm going to ask you this instead.
Okay.
What is the first thing you'd like to talk about with the movie F1? Guide us. What is the most interesting conversation topic after coming into this movie?
I don't know, because this question, I will say, is not... I mean, this is more in relation to F1 than Pitt.
Yeah.
But...
talk about the movie.
The most interesting thing I thought that really struck me throughout F1 : the movie, a movie about an older driver, Brad Pitt, who is brought onto this failure of a race team to kind of bring up this young rookie driver, and
played by Desmond Interest.
Yeah, hilarity ensues.
I call him Desmond Interest. I think it's Desmond Idris.
Yeah.
Let's call him Desmond Interest.
And the thing about this movie, I think one of the things holding back F1 to me in like a way, because I'll say I like F1.
Yeah, we both liked it.
Yeah, really fun, worth seeing.
Go check it out.
The thing that it just threw me for a loop was that I actually think the inclusion and the partnership of F1 actually kind of holds the movie back in an interesting way. In that the feeling I was getting anytime there was a race is that it was almost like they were stealing shots. Like it felt like they were making a movie within somebody else's movie, because every time there was a race, it's clearly like, this is the D cam that comes in here and has shot Verstappen, Hamilton, all these huge drivers. They're not looking at the camera, obviously. They're doing their thing, but they're also, it doesn't look like they're on board with the movie. It looks like somebody took their camera out, a really nice one, probably a Sony Venice,
with the Rialto head.
Yeah. And stole some shots of these guys just having general conversations, walking around the course, and then here's Brad Pitt.
Yeah, but that wasn't a big part of the movie, though. But I do agree with you.
I think it's weird, though, that they are trying to pigeonhole them into the movie.
So would this have been a more culturally immersive F1 movie if they instead did the Days of Thunder route and they just made up or Talladega Nights or something, where they made up every team and then they just mimicked races with completely fake tracks, not fake tracks, but completely fake races.
I kind of think that would be more effective, also because it makes the stakes of this movie very much in this one.
Insulated.
Yeah, it's super insulated. So it's like they're in competition. Obviously, F1, all these different teams are in competition with each other, but you don't feel their presence at all other than it's just like them being like, you guys are the worst.
Well, this is something that Joseph Kosinski, the director, talked about. I think he talked about it on a rival podcast that does about equal numbers to us. But he did talk about, when you are in F1, unlike NASCAR or another racing circuit, like there are two cars that are run by one team.
Yes.
And your biggest and sometimes only competition, if you're at the bottom of the polling like they were when they started the season or midway through the season, is your own teammate.
Yeah.
So I guess there was a story excuse. I don't want to call it an excuse. But there was a story reason behind insulating it within this one Javier Bardem-owned F1 team. That being said, though, I do get what you're saying where like the world that they were painting was much more done by like wide shots than it was by I forget who plays Rowdy, whatever his name is in Days of Thunder. Sorry to just compare this to Days of Thunder.
Oh yeah, it's
I think the guy's awesome in that movie though.
Yeah, it's Henry Portrait of a serial killer guy.
Yeah. Google him and we'll cut around here.
He's great.
He's so good at that. Dude, you're looking this up on Letterboxd?
Yeah.
That's a true.
It's Michael Rooker.
Michael, thank you. Michael Rooker. He's got a great name too.
Yeah, great name.
Yeah, like there is no Michael Rooker. You know what I mean? Like they don't have that. And it's funny because I was wondering how much corporate synergy they would get with F1. Because, a funny example, a movie that we've talked about on this pod before, like Mike, is like this on like a much cheaper and smaller scale with the NBA.
Yeah.
Where they basically film a ton of NBA players with a fake team. But even in that movie, they have a ton of dialogue with NBA players.
Yeah.
Sometimes not in the same room as Lil Bow Wow, but it's always like Jason Kidd being like, hey man, that guy can jump pretty high. And then it cuts Lil Bow Wow like windmill dunking. There is absolutely no dialogue.
None of that.
There's like a moment where Louis Hamilton like looks over, executive producer Louis Hamilton looks over at Brad Pitt. And I'm like, is he going to fucking say something? And then he doesn't. Toto Wolff. Toto Wolff is the only one with a line.
Yes.
Where it's like, if you're looking for a new team next year. But I just did a friend of the pod, Gunther Steiner impression there. Because he's got like the three looks.
He's got three looks, no line.
No line. Yeah.
I just thought it was really interesting, especially if your movie is like, this movie is about F1.
Yeah.
We're going to show you all these people. We're going to talk. You're going to hear them in the race, like be like, Verstappen, getting ahead of Verstappen.
Yeah.
But they have no lines. And they never acknowledge the other characters other than Lewis Hamilton looking at him like one time. Like it's like they're in
Bruce. It's like they're Bruce Willis in with the M Night movie.
Yeah, in Unbreakable.
No. What's with Haley Joel Osment?
Oh, Sixth Sense.
Yeah, it's like they're in the Sixth Sense where it's like they're existing but they don't talk to him.
Yeah, it's like. The Apex GP team is dead, and they've been dead for years, and they don't know it, and everybody else is like,
you know, you guys died in a fiery crash 10 years ago, right?
That crash that killed Pitt 30 years ago. You don't remember that? It was odd to me because it's like clearly everybody in the F1 world, like the corporate F1 world, was like, this is good for us to have.
We're doing this.
Yeah,
we're actively doing this.
We are doing this. This movie. Everyone be aware. Brad Pitt and co. will be at races.
We're going to do God Save the Queen, and Brad Pitt will be in the national anthem.
Yes.
Which is an ultimate flex for Pitt right there.
Oh, absolutely. You could kind of feel it sometimes too, where like Pitt was like in the end when like Pitt is up there with the other racers.
Yeah, he's like, this is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, he's like, I'm up here with the two best drivers in the world,
spraying champagne on George Russell.
And I was like, that's pretty cool, honestly. Like that, but that's the kind of shit I was like, if you're gonna show me this, I kind of want a little just feed him a couple lines or. Go full, bring a Rooker in there. You know,
I could have used a Rooker.
I could have used like a Mercedes driver named named Michael Rooker. Just a piece of shit.
It's not a bad idea though to have an older driver on another team. Who's the guy? All of our F1 listeners, our red flag crossover listeners,
they're turning us off.
Right now. But is it Carlos Alonso? Is that his name? Fernando Alonso is the guy's name. He's like 50 years old and he was racing up until like last year.
Yeah,
they should have had
did a long
someone
time. Yeah.
like that in there where Pitt knows him, but he was like a little younger than him. Maybe he took Pitt's seat after the crash.
Yeah.
And then that guy's like kind of on his case. But at the same time, it's not like there was a ton of room for really any of this in this movie.
Yeah, because it's a pretty stuffed movie.
It's a stuffed movie. There's so much racing, and the racing looks great.
The racing is, and it should be, the best part of the movie.
Okay, one more kind of nitpick at this before we go to things that we like. Yeah. I don't want to go all negative on this movie.
And that's just something I found really, it's really interesting.
It's a great point.
And it's a great example of like, because it makes total sense from F1's perspective and from Apple's perspective to be like, let's partner together to make this super movie. Like from a business standpoint.
And Bruckheimer.
Yeah, and it's like, this is kind of like the perfect package of a movie.
Absolutely.
And so all teams want to get behind it. And I think we will only see more of this. I think we'll see other sports leagues. Because obviously all these sports leagues have copied F1's Drive to Survive. Yeah. The PGA has done it, like soccer's done it, like all these different sports are like, we need our doc series.
Well, there is a funny line. I think this is a Javier Bardem line. And I think Javier Bardem is probably the most lived in character in the entire movie. Yeah. He's doing the easiest role. Like he gets to play like the guy in the suit who gets all the actorly meetings.
And he's great. Yeah.
He's great. Yeah. But Bardem's got this line when Pitt's in the hospital where he's like, why don't we just like golf or tennis or something? Yeah. Big laughs in the theater. It's a great line. And it is kind of funny that golf and tennis are the other Drive to Survive shows that Netflix has done. Yeah. You worked on the golf one.
I did. I did work on Full Swing. Yeah.
But like those shows were not as successful. Drive to Survive has, I think, dipped in popularity as well once people were kind of like, all right, I guess like I got the show out of it. You know what I mean? And if I'm not crossing over to a full fan, then I'm not going to watch the show. Yeah. And I think that the interesting thing is like, yeah, they could do this with tennis and yeah, they could do this with golf. I would watch and love both of those movies probably. Right. But, and this is what I was going to bring up, the last negative thing is that we're going from the Top Gun Maverick method of like real cameras in extreme sports. And we're going to take that, and Bruckheimer and Kaczynski took that, put it into racing, right? Yeah. And then they used a league and corporate synergy. And I think you could say the exact same thing about what they did with the military. It's not a league, but it's a massive corporation that let people use their shit, right? Now you go, all right, car racing was the second coolest thing you could do, but not as cool as fighter jets, right? Yeah. The same issue they had with Days of Thunder after the original Top Gun. Totally. So now we're going to go from car racing, golf, like tennis, and I think that when you go and use that kind of maximum corporate synergy model, but get less and less extreme with the sports, then it's pushing more towards, well, we should probably have just made this a character drama. Yeah. Instead of like, here's Novak Djokovic giving 1 second of look or 1 second look over at Josh O'Connor, who's going to play another tennis player. It's like, no, I think Challengers is probably the better way to do this.
Yeah, let's make it fictional. Yeah. I agree.
So there's like a fun part of that, but it's also like a little concerning too.
Yeah, like I think that's to me that should be the lesson of like, I think this was maybe as far as we could take this. Yeah, like,
and it worked.
Yeah, and it does work. Yeah.
But we're feeling the seams.
Yeah, you definitely feel the seams, and I think honestly, you brought up a great point. Like with Top Gun Maverick, that's something that also helps Top Gun Maverick is that the war is vague. Yeah, it's not like they're attacking the country's never named, right? It's
like Gunther Steiner's not in the other plane.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're going after an unknown enemy, so everybody's like, yeah. But in the race where you're like, he passes Verstappen, you're like, well, that would never happen. Yeah. He's the best racer in the world. Nobody's ever passed him.
I didn't bump up again. I more so was like, and this is more kind of what I was trying to go towards the last negative, because I do want to talk a couple positive things about this movie.
We should hit them.
No, but these aren't like completely negative.
Yeah, no, it's they're just interesting things.
They're interesting things. Yeah. I think that the movie was like so filled with racing and so filled with this is a more personal problem with me, but like so filled with like let's like try to Moneyball F1, which was a great idea, you know, like let's use the safety cars and stuff to try to like jump up in the standings. Yes. And they were like, you know, we can't beat these teams on the straightaways, but we can beat them in the aggregate. Yeah. Billy, this is Scott Renfro. Yeah. No, but they don't like him because he drives weird. Yeah. But like
they like him because he's smelly and old.
This is Chad Hatterberg. Is it Chad Hatterberg? Scott Hatterberg.
Yeah.
This is Scott Hatterberg. Yeah. Guys, here's the thing. He's so good but he can't drive.
But he's blind in his right eye.
He's blind in his right eye, but this guy gets on base.
Well, we don't need guys who get on base. This is F1.
But like, that was all good.
Yeah.
I could have used without the incredible announcer. F1's got, like, now that Doc Emmerich's retired from hockey, I think probably like one of our best announcers. It's like Fernando Alonso, that guy. And it's like, I'm going to move my mic away. But like when he was like, and now this team is doing this thing, so this thing can happen.
Yeah.
And then this will happen. And then this will happen because of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, dude, like, let's settle the fuck down here.
Yeah, they really telegraph to you what's going on.
And with all of that, because it's super complicated, and it's a world that not a lot of people know, it's not like you have like a ton of time for the mythologizing of a character.
Yeah.
Which Brad Pitt is like probably better at, you know?
Yeah.
When he's, you know, on a roof, shirtless, fixing an antenna.
Yeah.
Or even in Moneyball, like sitting at a computer with Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
And this more so felt to me a little more Cruise-ish, where he doesn't have a lot of lines, and the lines that he has have to be the most important 2 sentences you're going to hear for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was so interesting because I was like, Pitt does bring his own shit to it, and it's cool, but it's not necessarily like there was something a little out of place with me about it, you know?
Yes.
And he looks awesome, and he's cool, and I actually did believe that Javier Bardem has that line where he's like, a 53-year-old won a race before, and I was like, all right, cool, this can happen then.
Yeah.
But it was like almost like I wanted to see him hang out more than I did almost like
drive this plot forward.
Yeah, keep driving the plot forward. Yeah.
I think that's a good point, and I honestly think that must have been something that, you know, this writing team, they had to have pinpointed early, because you can feel it too, where it's like it's not as seamless a fit as Cruise is into Top Gun Maverick.
This is more of a Cruise movie.
It's more of a Cruise movie, but it's like we can't just put Cruise. He literally already did this Top Gun to Days of Thunder.
He should have ran it back.
Yeah, dude. I know. It's like we can't do it again.
Yeah.
Immediately. But
we should I don't know. I meant to interrupt you. We should put a pin in that, because that does kind of tie into like what we like about Pitt in other movies.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because with this movie, it's like Pitt is not seamless into this role, because Pitt is such a good hangout performer. Like he just brings vibes to a movie. He brings like such a persona and an energy, but not like Cruise is this star persona that comes onto screen and is just like, he's bringing that into his line deliveries. Like Pitt has stuff that like is there that he doesn't need to say.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to do anything. You're just like, holy shit, Brad Pitt's in this scene.
And I will bring this up later, but I made you watch Ocean's 12. We rescheduled this so you can watch Ocean's 12.
Which is kind of like what his role in the movie is.
It's the ultimate Pitt no dialogue role.
Yeah.
Where you're like, Catherine Zeta-Jones points a gun at him. He literally takes his hand off of his forehead. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then she's like, all right, fine, I won't shoot you. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I have to not shoot you now. Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting because like this role is, I mean, it's a very plot forward movie, and you know, it needs somebody that keeps it moving, but that's not really that's not where Pitt is best served.
No.
That's not his like main form. And I think that they are trying to like marry the two in this movie, where it's like they have to give Pitt like, because Pitt also, you're always kind of feel like he's so charming, but he's also a swarmy guy. Like he's a little something like, there's always a little sleaze to him.
They're trying to make him like, I've used this word, I stole it, but like the warrior monk like guy.
Yeah.
It's like he's like a philosophizer.
Yeah.
That's another fake word. But like, he's a bohemian. He's a drifter, you know, which they make him in this movie.
Yes.
But then he's also the best race car driver in the world. Where I'm like, can these two things exist? They did well enough.
Yeah.
I was on board.
But it's also like,
but it wasn't.
But they're also not going as far to say that he's the best driver in the world either, because they're like, we have to find a way for this character to almost rig races.
Yeah,
which is interesting because it's like, that's what kind of threw me off early. Is I was like, oh, he's not going to come in there and he's not the best racer on the circuit.
Well, that's a big probably like, I don't know if it was Louis Hamilton or whoever at F1 probably had that note where he's just like, nobody can beat Max or myself if they came in with a car that wasn't a Mercedes or a Red Bull. Like if you want to make this guy have an underdog story, you're going to have to make him cut corners.
Yeah.
Like literally cut corners. Yeah.
Which I just thought was really interesting is like the hero of this movie, a lot of the movie is just him like rigging races for his teammate and his teammate being like, you rigged this race for me. And he's like, yeah,
dude.
You're welcome.
But that's also, did you watch Drive to Survive?
I've seen like an episode.
I was a big fan of the first 2 seasons of it. Have not really followed F1 too much since, but like that was a big part of the show to me where I was like, this is a very lawless sport where there is actually not a lot of code of ethics going on here.
Yeah.
People are like literally Tobias Menzies forging documents about the car's body. Like that shit goes on.
Yeah.
Probably not in that dramatic of a way, but like it is almost like this sport where like individual private money controls so much of it that it is a self-described circus sometimes more than it is like soccer or basketball or something where they're like, the 3-point line will never be moved back.
Yeah.
You know, in like in F1, they're like, yeah, let's just do a sprint qualifier this week because some, sheik paid us to do it.
Yeah, we're changing the rules this week.
Yeah. And that's what kind of makes it chaos and also kind of that, I think that kind of like worked for it, that he was just cheating his way up to the top there.
I think it's just fascinating, and it highlights like that F1, and I also think it's just like Americans' understanding of racing, like I think to a degree is always, I don't know, maybe it's just like also being from the South, like when I think of racing, I think of NASCAR, which in my head is just like, they go around the same loop 500 times. Yeah. And then the race ends.
Michael Rooker is there.
And Michael Rooker wins every time. And in F1, it's like, no, there's actually so much more involved here. And so trying to turn that into like a cinematic version of it, it's hard. I think
super hard.
In like adapting it, they were probably like, because you can't just have Brad Pitt walk onto the track if you're setting up that he hasn't done this in 30 years. Yeah. You can't have him just suddenly be better than his teammate. Rookie.
That's what, and I don't want to, I think we should jump around a little more, but like, that's what the show taught me. Like the F1 Drive to Survive didn't teach me about F1. It taught me how racing works as a whole. I never understood, okay, IndyCar, there's like different cars than NASCAR, and Formula One's like European, but like, what is my American brain couldn't wrap its head around the fact that like, racing is not a unilateral organization, you know, and it's much more about the construction of the vehicles, and that determines the leagues they're in, rather than like where the best athletes are or where the best money is or anything like that. It's like, there's most money in F1 and they're the fastest cars, but it's regional, it's environmental, it's all these different things that makes it so much more disorganized and chaotic. Yeah, and that's what the show taught me. And for you to say like, oh, well, like, how do you describe that in a movie? It's like, it honestly probably helped that they made it so insulated and did it the way that they did it. But yeah, I mean, you have a lot easier time with NASCAR. I mean, like, especially like Talladega Nights. It's like, what we need to understand about this movie is that Formula One is posh and European. Yeah. And Sacha Baron Cohen is like a French gay driver who comes in and sips macchiatos as he drives.
Yeah, and he's just like a better driver.
Yeah, and they're turning left the entire time. Yeah. And it's a lot simpler. Right? Yes. So this was probably the hardest it's going to be. I mean, don't sleep on Rush, Ron Howard's movie too. That did a lot with the Niki Lauda stuff. Yeah. That's a good movie too. Yeah. Or Ford vs. Ferrari, which I kind of think is a better movie than this movie. But
I think so, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But what'd you like about it?
Okay, wait. I actually have a big question that I think can like describe, probably, I'm guessing what you liked about it too. Okay. Jerry Bruckheimer. We did our second episode about Jerry Bruckheimer on this show. Yeah. The only producer we have ever pitched to on this show. Yeah. The last producer we'll ever pitch to on the show. He has a certain way of making movies that you and I both love. You know, they are talent focused, uncontroversially plotted, I would say, pretty classically plotted in hero mythologies, expensive. And within all of that, they do not cut corners in the quality of the script, the quality of the writers, the quality of the director, the quality of the score. And overall, they make the best and ideal version of a studio action movie, right? Yeah. Now, why is Jerry Bruckheimer, seemingly, who is 80-something years old at this point, still, I think, the only, or not still, now today, the only person who seemingly has any interest in doing this. Because if I was like a young producer, I would or a 40-year-old producer, I would look at Jerry Bruckheimer and go like, why is nobody actively seeking out how to relive his When Lightning Strikes 90s Bruckheimer Simpson days of action movie run? I mean, his movie just made $300 million or whatever it did at the box office this weekend. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact way I looked at The Pitt, the show on Max this year with Noah Wiley.
Yeah.
And I'm like, John Wells, he's been making good TV for 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a lot simpler. And as much as we need, you know, we need the Yorgos Lanthimos out there, or in television, you know, we need the Nathan Fielders or whoever you want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Why is no one trying to do the middle of the road shit the best at the highest possible level with the best possible technicians involved?
Yeah.
It seems so obvious. Like, this is how you're going to make a ton of money and be successful in Hollywood. And it seems like I'm reducing it a lot to... It might be a little reductive what I'm saying, but the Bruckheimer playbook is right there, and it seems like nobody is trying to grab it because this fucking works.
Yeah,
and he reminded us of it last weekend.
He did. I think it's a very good point. I think it's kind of a perfect storm of elements for why it still works for Bruckheimer in a few ways. In that one, he's been doing this for a really long time. So he's seen multiple eras of Hollywood at this point. Like when he's first starting in like the commercial world, that's like what? He's like the mid 70s to late 70s.
Yeah, and then they do Flashdance.
Yeah, like so he's coming up in the 80s and 90s, which one is already like such a different filmmaking world than what we live in now. Mm-hmm. And so like you just went from the simplest point being like shooting on film to shooting on digital, whatever. Like that time, like seeing how all these different craftspeople coming together to make movies for film in the way that they made them back then, also before, you know, they'd really dialed in computer effects and they were still developing computer effects. So he has this reach back to a more practical filmmaking world, and that he got that when he was younger.
Yeah.
And while he's doing that, I think he's building up such an incredible cachet where it's just like, I mean, you know, he builds up this reputation that's like inscrutable. Yeah. And so he, in a way, he's kind of always going to be grandfathered in to like being able to just like kind of keep doing whatever he does, because it's kind of like Cameron in a way where you just like, I mean, Bruckheimer just makes us money. You just like let him do his thing.
Yeah.
And so I think in one way, like he has this plethora of experience and all these years of experience to draw from that in a lot of ways, a lot of newer producers don't have. And you can make the argument like, why aren't they pursuing him to be like, teach me your ways? Like, show me how you have done this. And honestly, I think a big part of it is I think that what he does is probably really hard.
It's incredibly hard to like the producerial effort. I don't know how many people are learning how to produce anything at the scale and the intricacy of what he's trying to do. I mean, F1 is like that is just,
it's huge.
It's a crazy accomplishment, that movie.
And that movie is full of real crowds. That's something for you.
Shout out to all my haters.
Yeah. Friend of the pod, Caleb, told us, he was like, Matt's gonna like this. He told me, he's like, Matt's gonna like this movie. There's a ton of real crowd scenes.
I never felt like anything was green screen.
No.
Ever.
And even if it was,
even his fucking,
it looked good.
Desmond Interest's car fucking flipping over.
Yeah,
Compare that to the one in Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I mean, that shit is horrifying when it happens in this movie.
Yeah. It's amazing that he only somehow burned his hands. I was like, what?
That's a big thing in F1. They come out because they got the fire retardant
Yeah,
suits.
like, I was like, that's incredible.
But I don't understand. Why aren't the gloves fire retardant too?
You feel like that would be
a gimme. Yeah, because like, that's happened a few times. Anyway.
But I think that like what he does is really, I mean, it's the same thing. Like Cameron and him are like,
but Cameron's the director though.
Yeah. It's like, these are guys that like are pushing themselves to the brink. Probably, I mean, they're past insanity. Like how they make these movies is so strenuous. It's so involved. And I honestly think that there's not a lot of people that want to do that. I think that there's probably like, to be a producer is obviously a very specific mindset. And I think that if you have interest in being a producer, and if you are a producer at a high level, already that puts you in a really specific personality type. And that puts you into a very specific person.
Yeah.
And then I think Bruckheimer's like 10 steps past that.
Well, it seems like the only other person who's interested in doing this. I mean, Pitt produced this movie through Plan B as well, and he was obviously filming this at racetracks seemingly for like 3 years and everything. So I don't want to reduce his role in this, but I would say full time, the only person who seems like he's interested in doing this other than Jerry Bruckheimer is Tom Cruise. You know?
Yeah.
And being like, no, we need to reshoot this. This isn't going to work in the second act or the third act.
Yeah.
You'd like to say Glenn Powell's interested in doing this as an actor, but then I saw the trailer for The Running Man and I
really soured you.
A small part of my body died there. I don't want, I'm not talking about specifically Bruckheimer in general. I'm just more saying like
that model.
This model, you know, this is not like an auteur driven model at all. This is not a awards chatter model at all. This is literally like, we need to get a director who's directed 55 commercials and 27 music videos.
Yeah.
Who has real verve stylistically. Joseph Kosinski, a true technician or whatever it might be. And pair him with a screenwriter like a Steve Zalian or anyone who just is like a structure god, right?
Yeah.
Who knows the ins and outs of how to make a Hollywood movie. Get 3 movie stars and put them in a world where exciting shit can happen. And then get, I think Hans Zimmer, like the score was fine. I think he's a little he's a little older now. You know, get Ludwig Göransson or get whoever, and you have your floor is really high at that point.
Yeah,
and I just don't understand why
it doesn't happen.
Why it doesn't happen more often? I genuinely don't understand.
I mean, I think it's just another great example of just like Hollywood outthinking itself.
Yes.
I think it's and for the last so many years, IP has been the king, and this is IP. It's just in a different way, where it's like this is a league, a sports league's movie.
It works.
And so it's like
full crowds of men, women, teenagers, older people.
Yeah,
complete crossover hit.
Yeah, it's just like a different way to look at this. So it's like I think that Hollywood is just like, what do audiences want? And it's like, sometimes I think the way Bruckheimer's gone about doing it, and like the projects he has sought out and the projects he has made happen, gotten over the finish line, when you look at them in hindsight, the ones that were successes, you're like, yeah, it makes total sense. Like, and so I think it's just a lot of times Hollywood is just like, it's just overcomplicating it.
Yeah, and you know who I think ruined this in the best way possible, because I do love his movies, obviously, is Christopher Nolan. I think that is the person who blew this entire thing up. Because Nolan comes in, he goes, I want Final Cut. I'm writing these movies. I'm directing these movies. I'm branding these movies as Christopher Nolan movies. And it worked really well for him.
Yeah.
And what did you see? You see Denis Villeneuve do the same. Now we're seeing Ryan Coogler do the same. And to be a big budget Hollywood director now means you are not like the producer who makes the movies with a number of lower level directors or whatever on a high scale.
Yeah.
You are the director who has the singular vision of a movie.
Yeah.
And while it works for Christopher Nolan, Coogler, I love him, but like my biggest problem with Sinners was like, this movie needed another screenwriter on it.
Yeah.
And like that in itself is kind of like interesting how Denis doing Bond, and he doesn't have Final Cut on that, and he is going to work with other screenwriters, and like maybe these studios are getting a little smarter, and I don't want to say like take Final Cut away from directors.
Sure.
But I mean, like, maybe there is like the F1 thing will kind of show them like, who's like really slept on is producers,
Yeah.
and we've really kind of X'd them out of the equation here with studio executives at tech companies and then directors. It's they've really been budged out of the system, but like F1 and Top Gun Maverick are perfect examples of why independent producers are so important to making big Hollywood movies.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that, like, now that I'm thinking about it, we've kind of ended up, our current film landscape has ended up in this like weird marriage between like the 70s auteur driven directors married with the 80s blockbuster. So it's like,
it's a really, really smart point.
It's like these, like, where in the 70s, it's like all the Final Cut directors being like, I make the movies I make.
Yeah.
And it, like, that's the attitude of directors now, but they're like, and I also want them to be fucking huge. And you're like, well, that's tough. I mean, that's like really hard. I mean,
it's true though.
And it's like they, I think you're
like
totally
I was watching
right.
Babylon the other day, and I was like, I enjoy Babylon.
It's very fun.
Yeah, it's super fun,
Yeah.
and like there's such great stuff in there. But can't lie if I'm like, I don't think he got all this one.
Yeah, like it's definitely, he didn't get a hold of all of it. Yeah. It's just,
and who produced it with him? His partners.
Yes.
Yeah, his wife.
I think you're totally right that Nolan, because it's weird to say that Nolan's movies are simple, because they're not. They are very complex. I mean, some of them are almost indecipherable. Like, but they're also like, they're visually like, it communicates what it's trying to do very cleanly, very clearly, and the stories are like plotted very straightforward. It's just the effects and like the way the narrative is spun then makes it like, gives it like a complicated air to it.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, Memento's like a guy who's like, on a war path here.
The stories have to be simple because the plots are so complicated.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think in the same way that Steph Curry shot a ton of 3-pointers and, kind of ruined Daryl Morey's career. Like, Steph Curry might be why Daryl Morey will just never win an NBA championship as a GM, because he's just trying to like replicate his statistics on 2 teams now. Like, in the same way that people argue, it's like, did Steph Curry, change the game forever and like, kind of like make it less interesting or whatever because everyone was trying to jack up 43s a game.
Yeah.
It's the same Christopher Nolan argument. I mean, like, you and I went to film school, like, right, post like Dunkirk, like right in that kind of Nolan
Dunkirk came right
run, like
right there.
Everyone in my first year screenwriting classes were trying to write Christopher Nolan scripts, right?
Yeah.
They were like, it's a man who lost his wife.
Yeah.
Get this, he can't touch anything. You're like, all right. So like, that is, I think, from the ground level of shitty 18-year-old screenwriters up to the best people doing it possible. It was widespread, and it became, a known thing to produce movies with your partner and like do the Nolan way. I'm not saying, Damien Chazelle or Ryan Coogler married people to produce movies with them.
Yeah.
But they both do it.
Yeah, they do both do it. And
but like, I think that the celebrity producer, cool throne,
Yeah.
Let's bring him back.
Yeah.
I want the flashy, I get a new pair of Levi's every day. This is my partner, Don. He just got a penis enlargement surgery.
He's going to die in 3 years.
Yeah, you know what I finally watched? Logan Wells' focus feature screener of Kid Stays in the Picture.
Oh, how was it?
It was great, dude. Yeah.
I read it.
Robert Evans, being like, I want to be the guy who gets to say the kid stays in the picture. Let's bring those guys back.
Yeah.
F1 was fun.
Yeah, F1 was fun. It makes sense that it's doing well. I'm glad that it is doing really well.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
And it feels like everybody that comes out of it, their takeaway at least is like, I had a good time.
Yeah, I went to see it with Noah and my friend Tyler, and like they all really liked it.
Yeah.
And I loved how there's nothing about that movie to me that's like pessimistic about movies in the way that the Fall Guy felt to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything in this movie felt like this is exactly, there's corporate synergy and all that stuff, but like it's like everyone in this was really seemingly in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And was trying to make a fucking movie.
Yeah, everybody's committed to doing this thing.
Yeah.
And it has its quirks, it has its zags,
it has its lulls.
It's maybe 10 minutes too long, but maybe 15. But
it's a 3.5-star movie to me.
But that's
a 5-star effort.
And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. You don't get that enough.
You don't. So, that's my point.
Yeah.
The high floor, low ceiling. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a high ceiling, but
the
ceiling was about 10 feet when they finished.
But you can't have the ceiling without the floor.
Anyway,
the floor is Brad Pitt.
The floor is Brad Pitt.
And that's a pretty good floor.
That was a great conversation. I don't know how long we went on that conversation. But
oh my God, it's midnight.
that was really fun though.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
One
of my favorites.
I would say he's one of my favorites too. Yeah. I got no qualms.
He's a top 3 for me.
Yeah.
Any day of the week.
Yeah. He's great. He's in a lot of my favorite movies, and he has given some of my favorite performances ever. He's up there. God, I don't know. I mean,
let's just run. I feel like the best way to do this is not like because Brad Pitt has played the Brad Pitt experience in most of his best movies.
Yes.
So
I mean, I think that one of the best places to start is with what we're ultimately going to be pitching to Brad post-Oscar.
Post Cliff Booth.
Yeah,
Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
So we can kind of work our way back from there.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to start because it's kind of, I mean, that role, that performance, it's tailor-made for him. He'd kind of been working his way to a performance like that for years. Like he'd already been playing iterations of Cliff Booth for a while. You can you feel it in an Oceans. I think you feel it like even in like Billy Bean. It's just because it's just Brad Pitt. Like
Brad Pitt plays variations of Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt himself is so, I think, layered that it never feels like it's Jason Statham playing Jason Statham.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, he's definitely playing Brad Pitt, but I've never seen this side of Brad Pitt before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting flavor.
But you're right. I mean, it's impossible to escape the charmingness and the looks and the charisma.
While also having a mysterious past.
Exactly. So so like every role, it seems like, is in conversation with that.
Yeah.
And is like almost like I was Tyler Durden 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But now I'm this guy.
Yeah.
And it works every time. And I think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it was like the version of it that was most tied to obviously Hollywood in a lot of ways, where it's like there's actually no fence to jump over of like he was a baseball player, or you can go to like Allied or something like or like whatever,
which
like
is right before this. Like,
you're like he was a soldier or whatever it was. It's like, and he's like, no, this guy was like in Hollywood, which Brad Pitt was.
Yes,
and he also is in the 60s, and it's really cool to see him in the 60s.
Yeah. That Cliff Booth role is just like, you're right. I mean, it's exactly, it's kind of everything you want to see from him up there. And he's got the perfect hero, several hero shots, him without the shirt on top of the roof,
so
him throwing a dog food can at Mikey Madison's face.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff. It's just like
him not want to go to jail for poontang.
Yeah. It's all there, man. And it kind of feels like since that movie, like each movie because post that, what we got, Ad Astra's
he's done a couple good ones. Yeah.
Ad Astra's the same year as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I defend Ad Astra.
I like Ad Astra.
I think it's a good movie.
Yeah, I like it. I like James Gray. I think it's solid. I think he's really good in Babylon. I think he's like I think that it's playing on the Booth character though. I think it's like kind of similar, but it's like, well, what if he was the star?
Yeah, but he's not. I think that I just watched it, and he's got some great moments in Babylon. My favorite of them being during post snake fight when Margot Robbie's running around with the python or rattlesnake. Excuse me, post snake fight when Margot Robbie's running around with the rattlesnake on her neck, and he's seeing kind of the chaos of what was once like a working chaos, and he's like, it's over.
Yeah.
You see that look on his face, and you're like, wow, like only Brad Pitt can do that right
there.
I think that what it misunderstands about him, though, is that it actually kind of makes him a little too anonymous, which was like almost intentional for the character, because you're actually like not supposed to remember this guy.
Yeah.
Like the Jack Conrad character, it's like the whole point of him is that everyone's going to forget him in 100 years.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to know who he is. But like at the same time, it's like
it's Brad Pitt.
It's Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
I want him to be known.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of where it loses me a little bit. But within that, I mean, he's got some great moments.
Yeah. I think it's an overall really strong performance from him. And it's, I think that post Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think that's the best performance he's given.
Definitely. Yeah.
There's not a whole. I mean, there's not a whole lot of
Bullet Train, which I mean, David Leitch. I think outside of Chazelle and Ad Astra, which kind of came like directly after almost. Or Babylon was a 2022, so 3 years after. But he has worked with a number of directors who, like even Kaczynski, and I don't mean to shit on Kaczynski because I think he's a masterful director in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But like Kaczynski, David Leitch, and John Watts, all proven directors in a lot of ways, but like they don't understand movie stars in the same way, like more like auteuristic. Is that the right word? Directors, or obviously Soderbergh, or even Bennett Miller and Moneyball, obviously, or David Fincher, or Chazelle. to an extent, I think that like he's worked with more world building technocrats as directors. Rather, I mean, Fincher's the ultimate technocrat, but like he has not worked with too many directors post Once Upon a Time who like really truly are interested and invested in the portrayal of the Brad Pitt experience on screen, but more like you're gonna fit into my movie instead.
Yeah, and it's like as opposed to being like we made this
for Brad Pitt.
It's like we made a movie and we put Brad Pitt in it, and you're like, yeah, you really got to tailor it to him. Like it's really got to be. He's and there are obviously great examples of Pitt kind of zagging, and it like him in Burn After Reading is an awesome.
It's an incredible zag.
Yeah, incredible zag.
So fucking funny in that movie.
And it's because it perfectly understands like what you think you're getting from Pitt, and then it's like, here's what you're getting this time.
Pitt plays stupid really well.
He does, yeah.
What was the other one where he's really stupid in? I mean, you got Guy Ritchie.
A Snatch. Yeah.
Snatch is really funny in that one too. But like, what's the newer one? It's not that new.
Oh, he's kind of like, I mean, The Lost City. He's kind of like a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
I was talking about like a better movie
figure.
Than that.
Yeah.
What is it? Wait.
You thinking of Deadpool 2?
Yep.
Well, it's kind of Inglourious Bastards.
That was one I was thinking of. Am I thinking of Inglourious Bastards?
Babel. It's not Babel. It's the saddest movie ever made.
Dude, I kind of ride with Babel.
I like Babel.
I don't think it's bad.
I don't think it's bad. It's just like, oh my God. I want to shoot myself.
This is so stupid.
I think it's Inglourious Bastards.
I think it's Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
I'm definitely thinking of Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Let's just cut right to me. It's a self-edit. Oh, yes, Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I that was actually kind of why it was hard to pitch to Brad Pitt in a 5-minute pitch. It's because like he excels when he is a part of far more looser plotted movies where he does get to hang, as we were talking about before.
Yeah.
His best sports movie is his version of the sports movie is the almost anti-sports movie.
Yeah.
Where it's not about what's on the field. It's about what they're doing in the offices.
Yeah.
His version of the best war movie is the two versions of it really working well is kind of like Allied's like a fun movie. Like I do kind of like Allied, but like Fury is like really works because it's just him like hanging in a tank.
Yeah.
And it's just the one tank, It's like a chamber drama in a tank with him and Jon Bernthal and Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
And then Inglourious Bastards, which is the most batshit, 3 stories simultaneously going on. Yeah. Quentin Tarantino, like just all over the place. It's tailor-made for Pitt in that too. So like, it's not like he's a kind of guy who you're like, all right, he's the hero and he's got an inciting incident.
Yeah.
And something goes wrong and then he comes back,
It's like, here's Brad Pitt.
Yeah, here's Brad Pitt. Isn't he cool?
We let him out of his cage so you could watch him for 2 hours.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So what was your first Pitt movie you saw?
First Pitt ever.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it was actually 7, but it kind of feels like it might have been.
Could have been 7. Well, he plays stupid in 7 too.
He does. Yeah, he's this brash, cocky guy that just doesn't actually know what's good for him.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing that 7 is before Fight Club to me too, and that like
I always think of them the other way around.
Yeah, because in 7, he plays this very like cocky, kind of immature detective, but he does have this older appearance to him that like. Then he kind of almost immediately loses for a few years, like Meet Joe Black, and then like
I Love You So Much,
and like Fight Club, like he's chiseled himself down to like being a boy again for a couple years, and you're like, and then he grows up again for the Ocean's movies. There's like 5 years post 7 where it's like, did he lose 10 years? Like while he's married to Jennifer Aniston, he's a kid again.
Yeah,
but 7 years, It's
the hair, dude.
Yeah, it's the goatee. He has like a much older like feel to him, and also because it's such a dark, brooding movie too. For him to carry it so well, and it's like him and Freeman are such a great pair that like it's kind of amazing that movie is like following like Interview with a Vampire, like and like him doing like a great 10 minutes in Thelma and Louise, and him doing like a a scene or two in True Romance, and then it's just like, here's this.
I think he works so well with Fincher because Fincher, no one more than Fincher likes stability with his camera, you know, and like consistent pacing. And who would you want to like hold on your frame more than Brad Pitt?
Yeah, he couldn't be more comfortable than when you're like, I'm gonna put the camera on you,
like
for,
right new,
all day.
Yeah.
And, great.
Like, and that obviously, like, you know, Fincher's like a just a master of like color and lighting and all that kind of stuff. But like, you know, I think that, you know, you can kind of see this with like lesser directors where it's like, well, to compensate for the fact that our story's not great or my shots aren't great or whatever's going on, there's gonna be music and we're gonna cut a lot and we're gonna, you know, do all these things to kind of like duct tape whatever's going on, which is what you get in like a Meet Joe Black or something.
Yeah.
But with Fincher, it's just like, no, like here are the Dust Brothers or here's Trent Reznor or something.
Yeah.
And we're gonna hold on the sickest shots of Brad Pitt for 2.5 straight hours.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Soderbergh too.
Yeah.
But it's just a completely different style of shooting.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think we should talk about Oceans now.
Let's fucking do it,
because so yes, as Matt mentioned earlier, we delayed the episode so I could watch in full Oceans 12. After, you know, and we've already discussed on previous pods, like I was late to Oceans 11. It was my September of shame last year, and
You liked it though.
Oceans 12?
No, Oceans 11.
Oceans 11, really liked.
Yeah.
Oceans 12, I liked way more actually.
That's so. I mean, I'm really glad you did because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Ocean's 12 is like one of my favorite movies
Yeah.
ever made, but that's not how I felt when I saw it for the first time.
I was there for it.
You were,
and maybe
you're an advanced film watcher.
Yeah, I've seen a couple flicks before. No, I think honestly you've prepped me for that too.
Okay. I didn't have any prep for that.
I was aware of the turn, and Caleb has told me that as well. Where it's like it's a different movie, and there's a different vibe to it, and there is less of an emphasis on this like insane puzzling heist. And it's more just like, we brought back the same 12 guys. And you know what? We threw in Catherine Zeta-Jones. You're welcome.
Yeah. And Bruce Willis.
Yes. And you get 10 minutes of Bruce Willis.
Did you know that was going to happen?
No idea.
That is just one of the craziest things. There's an interview with Soderbergh where he's like arguing with the studio about why they should include it. And he's like, they did it in 1942 in this like obscure fucking movie. And you're like, what? This guy, there's just no one like him.
Okay, don't argue with him.
Yeah, I mean, Ocean's 12 just as a movie, like I think people when they watch it for the first time are a little let down by the fact that it actually doesn't trust the audience in the same way that 11 does.
Yeah.
It actually says like, you know what you believed about this? Like, I didn't only fool you by a sleight of hand, but I fooled you by like completely changing what was going, like I showed you something that wasn't going on. You know? And you like lose trust in the audience when that, but as soon as you get over that hurdle, it becomes the best movie you're ever.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like, I mean, one, it's really funny. It's a really so funny movie.
Dude.
And everybody's
like,
comedy is just A+.
Brad Pitt in the trench coat at the train station where he's like, it's not in my nature to be mysterious.
Yeah.
He's like in a fucking trench coat and sunglasses.
When Clooney's asking everybody like, how old do you think
that's that scene? Yeah,
it's the same scene. And he's like, and Scott Caan's like 52. And he's like, and then Casey Affleck's like, well, like 48?
Yeah.
Maybe 52. And they're just like, and one, it's crazy that like, that Clooney's only 3 years older than Pitt. And it's amazing that in that movie specifically, it's like one's in their 30s and one's, it looks like one's.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's amazing their age.
I mean, when they're on the couch, when
drinking the wine,
the Night Fox changes the clocks.
God.
First of all, the Night Fox is just a great guy too.
Yeah.
I mean, the capoeira through the lasers is a cortex.
Vincent Cassel. I mean, slam dunk.
He's making fucking smoothies on the balcony. But you know, when he changes the clock and he comes in, Pitt, it's almost like this like freehand jazz that I think is kind of mutilated in his newer movies with the leeches and people like that. And even F1, he doesn't get a ton of chances to do this kind of stuff where it's just like, hey, Brad Pitt, how are you going to look at this watch? You know, like a normal person looks at a watch.
Yeah.
Or are you going to hold it vertically up and like profile your face like you're in like an Armani ad or something like that? He's got so many weird physical moves in these movies, especially in 12, where you're like, yo, like I've never seen someone do this. It's literally like could be the move, like for 2 straight hours.
Yeah.
And
it's a great point.
It's like I can watch this on mute. I can watch this with no, like I can just listen to it
It's the product of one having, firstly, a perfect physique and perfect angles to your entire body.
We're not the first person to say this. I think they said this on the rewatch when they covered this movie. But like nobody has ever looked better than Brad Pitt in Ocean's 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so he's playing with house money. Yeah. And two, he's the most confident person ever.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna hold my arm like this. And you're like, maybe we should all do that. Yeah. Maybe I should wear watches like that. And then I'm like, no, I couldn't fucking do it. Like he just is so supremely confident. And so then it's even better when he, like Catherine Zeta-Jones takes his phone and he realizes that he's been had. And he's like, ooh.
And he's got that weird, like, I mean, this is something that I've like looked at a ton, but the cut that Soderbergh makes when he's like, should we cut on him looking in the distance or saying something? It's like, no, I'm going to cut in him deciding on what face to make.
Yeah.
You know, he's like almost in the middle of making that face and then it cuts. I mean, dude, Soderbergh cooking in that movie, he said that is the most, like, I don't want to rephrase this, but like the most confident he felt as a filmmaker. Or like the most like on top of it he felt.
Yeah.
Like complete or like altruistic control and stuff like that.
It feels like everybody in that movie
feels that way. And, I mean, confidence in the characters, even down to like Scott Conn and Casey Affleck arguing. I mean, they're like, it seems like they've been improvising like they're Ben Stiller's parents for like 30 years or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
it's awesome.
The opening scene of that movie, which I think is one of the best opening scenes of any movie ever.
You love that scene.
With Pitt walking in, drinking the wine halfway through, the tracking shot coming through, and it's like they say he's got his boot rubbed down. And he like looks at it, he's got dandruff, he's got like Celsian blue shampoo.
It's perfect, yeah.
It's just like the confidence to play it the way that they played it, which is not flashy. It's super laid back. He's tired. He's a little drunk.
Yeah.
To play it in that way and to shoot it the way they did, as fucking dark as it was, and then to cut out on him like blurrily jumping out of that window, and to start your fucking movie that way is the most ridiculous shit of all time. And it's stuff you can only do if you have Brad Pitt and Catherine Zeta-Jones. And it's like that, if you want the Brad Pitt experience, to me is like, it's like that right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, I've just said, but it's like that movie is total. It's absolutely playing with house money, the whole thing. And it's like you just made Ocean's 11.
You made the perfect movie in a lot of ways.
You made an excellent movie, and you made the perfect movie for audiences, for mass appeal of like having all of the coolest people in like they each have something interesting to do. And in a very interesting movie setting, you just nailed it.
Yeah.
So sure, do I guess it again, but if you want to do it your own way, like I think we're already money's in the bank.
I think it's the difference between making a perfect movie and making the imperfect movie. And talk about like the Brad Pitt movie star experience, like between those two movies, making ordinary shit seem really cool is I guess what we're talking about. And then it's like the reaction to this is like post, Brad Pitt Apex when he does his Moneyballs, and then a little later when he does Once Upon a Time, it's like, here's the guy who used to be the coolest guy and is still is, but like is kind of like he's like remembering stuff and he's dealing with that stuff. When he's in the Ocean's movies, and like for example during the 3-minute flashback, which I saw a tweet once, him and Catherine Zeta-Jones, like I saw a tweet once, it was just like I gotta watch this every day just to like equalize or something like that. Like he's in a nightclub, and like people look so stupid in nightclubs usually. They're sweating and like dancing. Billy Crystal are doing the white man's underbite or whatever. Like Brad Pitt making out with Catherine Zeta-Jones, it's like what is this? Is like this could belong in the Louvre, Yeah. And it's him eating, and like all the YouTube cuts of him eating. He's eating popcorn. Nobody looks cool eating popcorn. No. The whole point of popcorn is that you won't look cool eating popcorn.
Yeah.
He's at a dog track eating frozen ice or frozen yogurt in the first one, and he's like picking at it like it's like a tapestry or something like that. He makes ordinary shit look cool, you know. And that's kind of the basis of the Fight Club character in a lot of ways. But like, I think it's like awesome that there is an example out there of this kind of aspirationally performative figure, Yeah. And that's kind of why he's my favorite. And I think other people like the grimier and the weirder and the weirder. But like, to me, it's like, it's similarly in the Fincher kind of way. It's like I like seeing the perfection on the screen, to me, that's like really fun.
Yeah.
And that kind of sense of control is like really, 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 it allows me to let go a lot when I'm watching movies. And that's kind of like why I really, really enjoy these in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. And I think even still, it's like, you know, his character in the Ocean's movies, like, he's not perfect too. So it's
character-wise, he's not. I just mean like
it's
physically.
Like physically.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, because it's just like watching a physically perfect person do like almost buffoonish stuff, and so it's kind of like it's just like a great mix of like watching him be like, yeah, hotel business isn't for me. And
it's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
You're like, I've never seen someone look so cool when they fail at something.
Yeah, and you're like, man, if only I could fail that way.
Topher Grace, he's like,
yeah.
It's like, she broke my heart, man. I totally mailed in that Dennis Quaid movie.
I didn't know Grace was coming back. I didn't know they brought back Topher.
He's so game to make fun of himself in this movie.
It's awesome. Yeah.
He's doing all this Kabbalah shit, man. But yeah, I mean, another great Soderbergh sequence is like the oneer from him walking down the stairs when he's on the phone with Andy Garcia.
Yeah, in the car.
And he's like, well, I would say that like his favorite Mustang, you know, it blows up.
Yeah.
First of all, incredibly physical, the practical effect of that car blowing up is so cool.
Yeah.
But another one of those, like, does he react like, oh no? Is he anxious? Is he pissed off? Is he disastrous or sad? No, he's just like, huh.
Yeah.
That's how he reacts.
Yeah. He's great, man.
Yeah.
And I think that he was great in Ocean's 12. And it's like, because he's kind of like, I mean, he's kind of the engine for the movie because it's like him. I mean, it's him and Catherine Zeta-Jones, like, relationship gets you.
He takes the Clooney part.
Yes, he does. While also at the same time, it ends up kind of becoming, I mean, because he gets sidelined for a little bit by being in jail. Like, they all kind of get sidelined for a little bit. Like, and so then it briefly kind of it becomes Matt Damon and Julia Roberts movie for a second. Yes. Like, but it's
and Bruce Willis,
and obviously Bruce Willis, but
she wasn't in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I wasn't in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
It just was like, it's that movie. He could have no lines in that movie. And as long as he's in the scene, I think you're just like, man, I'm glad he's here. You're just like, that's great Pitt.
It's really rare when you find an actor as capturing as a movie star as he is as a performer. The limits of this are tested in, I think it's like secretly one of my favorite movies. I mean, it's not even secret. Like, everyone really likes this who like is in the know, but like the assassination of Jesse James, coward Robert Ford, is like the limits of this. It's like Brad Pitt's gonna have like no lines in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's not going to shower for a week. And he's going to be living in like a boarding house.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a bad dude. And you're still going to believe that Casey Affleck has ruined his own life.
Yeah.
To become this person.
Yeah.
And it's like, that to me is like the ultimate, how rare is Brad Pitt as an individual, you know? But like, yeah, I mean, in F1 especially, like Desmond Interest, I'm never going to say his real name, but like Desmond Interest is like, I thought I was going to go into that being like, I believe this guy's an actor, but don't believe he's a race car driver. That seems like the logical worry. I mean, I fully believe he's an F1 driver. Like, that guy could not hang in scenes with Brad Pitt, though, to me.
No, he couldn't.
He could not hang.
Yeah. And
that's a perfect example of like, you know, young actors, they're mostly like him, where it's like, they're great looking, they're charismatic, they can hold the screen when they're not saying anything, or they're great performers and they have it other way around. To have both of those at the level that Pitt does, it's not even something that Clooney has. You know, it's like, it's just incredibly, incredibly rare.
Yeah. I think that's where it's like when you watch a movie like Top Gun Maverick, when you're watching Cruise go against like Powell or even Meitel, man. I think you're watching where you're like these guys can hang, and that's why they're you know, and they have more to do than the supporting cast of Maverick.
They can definitely hang,
but you're like, they should be in the ring. And in this movie, it was like when Pitt was in the ring with Bardem or Condon. I thought Carrie Condon was great in F1 too.
She's excellent.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, this movie's right. But when it's like this movie really has to do a lot of work and heavy lifting based off of these two drivers' relationship, you're like,
that was tough.
Yeah,
it was tough, man.
They're on different playing fields, and not just in their characters, in their performances, and like, and I honestly, I think that the key to Brad Pitt in so many ways is that like unabashed confidence. And I think you can feel confidence from Brad Pitt whenever he does anything. Like him flicking a playing card into a hat in F1.
Yeah.
You're like, he's confidently playing alone in a room with a deck of cards.
Yeah, and maybe that's why we're talking about why he works so well with Fincher and Soderbergh. It's like those are two of the most individually confident directors we have, you know? And it shows with the way that Pitt plays it.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of projects that Pitt has done, you know, probably not across the board, but he's worked with a lot of those directors, whether they deserve to be in that camp or they didn't. You know, on one hand, it's like you're working with his Finchers, Tarantino's.
Yeah.
You know, I would
hate to exclude Tarantino from that too. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Coen brothers, and then like working with guys who was like Andrew Dominic. You know, the in
super confident director.
Assassination of Jesse James, extremely confident. Too confident of a director. I mean, it works there, but it doesn't work again, basically.
Did you see? I've never seen Killing Him Softly.
I haven't. I've only heard bad things about that movie.
I don't know anyone who likes it.
It is, I believe it's a remake, or it's the same book as The Friends of Eddie Coyle, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Which is a movie I love.
I've always wanted to see it. I've never seen it.
It's a great movie. But then it's like, you know, Andrew Dominic, even a David Leitch, clearly, supremely confident filmmaker with just like, you know.
I mean, Dominic made a great movie with him.
Yeah.
David Leitch made a super mediocre movie with him.
Yeah.
Bullet Train is like,
it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, the Brad Pitt like the Brad Pitt confidence is like so interesting to me in the older movies he's in, where like he is more, you know, he goes from obviously Thelma and Louise being the first one where he's like wide-eyed, and then Seven he's wide-eyed, and you know, by the time he gets to the Ocean's movies, he's obviously like all-knowing, but he's still young and horny and making mistakes and stuff, you know. Catherine Zeta-Jones gets his phone, whatever.
Yeah.
By the time it seems like he's gotten to Once Upon a Time, he's like, yo, like nobody's fucking fooling me.
Yeah.
And that run, I think, officially starts with Moneyball, where this is something last time I watched Moneyball, Moneyball, you know, I said 5 out of the 7 days a week, Social Network. I'd say like 2 out of the 7 days a week, 3 out of 7, that's my favorite movie. I am obsessed with Moneyball, and like many other people, but like the last time I watched it, the most effective line that he had was Jonah Hill, who's incredible in that movie too. He's nominated for Oscar, but like Jonah Hill asking like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Billy, you're gonna get fired. Billy, like, you know, the owner's talking to you about what's going on here. And I forget the verbatim the line, but Brad Pitt says, don't worry about what anyone else says. We don't need to explain ourselves. I think he says specifically, stop feeling like you need to explain yourself.
Yeah.
And it was so effective to me because I treated that line. I was like, here's a guy who is going against the grain, is the whole point of the movie, who is like, basically, when everyone is telling him, don't do something, don't do this, he's saying, I'm going to fucking do this.
Yeah.
And he might get fired, and he's embarrassing himself, and everyone's making fun of him. And to just take all of that and say, I don't need to explain myself to anyone.
Yeah.
Is the most Brad Pitt shit of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I believe anyone else. I mean, there's other people I believe, but like there's not many people I believe as much as Brad Pitt saying that shit.
Yeah.
And it's such a lesson for life, you know? If you could feel like you're Brad Pitt as Billy Bean in a movie, you can accomplish a lot of stuff.
You can really get anywhere.
And that is like the Brad Pitt shit. And that's what's weaponized in Fight Club, where Ed Norton sometimes feels like that. And then other times he feels like, you know, the middling insurance guy that he is. And like, it's so interesting that Brad Pitt has to kind of reckon with that in his own life, where he's a human being like the rest of us, you know?
Yeah. He is.
Does that all make sense?
No, I think it's a good point. I think that, you know, I think Moneyball definitely, to me, indicates like a clear, you know, it's kind of a start of a new zone of Pitt. Because when is the Tree of Life? That's 2011. That Tree of Life, Moneyball are like right around the same time.
That's a Terrence Malick, right? Yeah, I've never seen it.
I haven't either, but I've
seen Babel.
Yeah, obviously you've seen Babel.
If he gets in bed with it, he worked with Inarritu too. He was early on Inarritu.
He was. Yeah. That's his third movie, and that's his second English language movie. So he's buying stock early.
Yeah. He's on Inarritu Island.
Yeah, not a lot of people have been there and come back. That actually might be his second movie.
Oh, really?
Doesn't matter. But I honestly feel like, because 2008 is this interesting time where it's like Burn After Reading,
Inglourious,
and Inglourious Basterds is 2009. It's Burn After Reading. It's Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which we haven't even.
Do you like that movie?
It's really weird.
It's so interesting. I haven't seen it since I was like 10, dude.
I didn't care for it. I remember thinking like, oh my God, this is the longest movie they've ever made.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to watch it as an adult. I actually watched it on an Academy screener when I was 10. My mom's ex-partner.
Wow.
My mom's ex-partner's brother.
Holy shit.
Was a member of the Academy.
Okay.
Yeah. I was not in Hollywood. I was in upstate New York.
And you were going to wait till now to bring this up?
But he's like, hey, we got movies. And I was like, how do you have this? Like, isn't this in a theater? He's like, they just give them to me. I was like, what? Anyway, but yeah, and I watched it. Two things. One, I was like, this is the longest movie ever.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of funny when he's like old in New Orleans and he's running with a little kid.
Yeah.
It kind of got me in the end. I was really bummed out in the end of that movie.
I mean, yeah, it is like a really sad movie. Yeah.
My sister has gone on record, and now she's officially on record with this, that she was like, yeah, the first, I mean, she was pretty young too, and she was just like, the first, I don't want to say like sexual awakening, because that's weird, but she was just like, yeah, like Brad Pitt, that's officially when I became a teenager right there. I was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful person alive.
Old or young Pitt? Like baby old yet?
It was like teenager, couldn't play the piano. Pitt. No, I'm kidding. It was like motorcycle. He was on the boat with
Blanchett?
Blanchett, yeah. She was like, Jesus Christ.
I mean, yeah, it is.
Sorry, Molly.
There is a
weird thing to say about your sibling.
Sorry, Molly. There is a scene where it's Blanchett and Pitt, and they're in, I think it's like a dance studio or something, and it's when they're like both at the same age. I think that's the scene. I think they're talking about.
That's the problem with Benjamin Button, is because you keep waiting for Pitt to get hot.
Yeah,
and then he gets hot, and then he's just like a kid, and you're like, wait, no, stop.
Wait a sec. Yeah. But they share this scene together. It's one of those scenes where it's like, have there ever been two better, more interesting looking people on screen at the same time in like the prime of their lives?
Yeah.
And it's like, and from that point on, it's like, they're only going to get older. Well, in this case, he's going to get younger. But like, yeah, it's like, it's just that's like what I remember for that movie. And besides the fact that I remember it being really long, but that kind of pushes us into a new chapter.
Yeah, speaking of elevator pitches, though, I think David Fincher solely did that movie because someone walked in his office and said, what if I let you shoot a movie where the final shot of the movie is a baby dying of old age? He's like,
now you got my attention.
Yeah. That's a good pitch.
Hello. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you, though.
Well, I just think of that, like, to me, that's kind of a clear, like, because from there, it's like that kind of range of 2008 to 2009 is just a really interesting, like, really interesting swing of things. And I don't really have a tangible thing to point to, but it does feel like Tree of Life and Moneyball is kind of a new era after that run of, Jesse James to like Inglourious Basterds. Like those feel like different Pitts.
Yeah.
Like Inglourious Basterds Pitt, obviously the characters are different, but that Pitt that's pursuing that role to Pitt and Moneyball, they're different. They're different.
Yeah.
And that's only 2 years apart, or maybe a year.
That's the switch I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When he goes from, and it's weird because then when he does like Bullet Train and shit, he kind of goes back to that.
He kind of wants to go back to it.
Yeah,
now.
He wants to now loosen the reins. But
and you're like, you're 61, man.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
There's a lot. I to me, like the Inglourious Basterds. This is kind of reductive, but the Inglourious Basterds character, I'm forgetting his name right now.
It's Aldo
something.
Aldo Rain.
Yeah, Aldo Rain
yeah.
is a better, like, performance-wise, a more interesting version of the Jack Conrad character in Babylon.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
He's got like a couple Aldo moments in Babylon.
Yeah.
The moment that really made me laugh, and this is just like excellent fucking work from Damien Chazelle, is right after the scene that I talked about when this is the best Brad Pitt 2 minutes of this movie, when he's looking and he's like, oh, it's all over. We're fucked.
Yeah.
And then they're like, when his wife is like, do something. And he's like, all right, we charged. I forget what he says. He's like, all right, good men, we fight on and charge. And the camera starts moving on a track and he starts running and he just gets popped by the car.
I don't remember this at all. I remember the right before that, but that's
dude. I mean that made me laugh so hard. But it was like the most slapsticky screwball.
Yeah.
Great, like Aldo Rain almost Brad Pitt stuff, because he's got other scenes where he's like, ha ha ha, and he jumps in the pool.
That's true.
It's very Inglourious Basterds coded.
That's true. That's a good point.
But Inglourious Basterds, I think, just lets him cook for a way longer amount of time.
Yeah.
And gives him less emotional weight.
Yeah.
To be dealing with.
Yeah. There's weight. Yeah. Babylon. They got to land the plane on him having like the saddest arc of all time. I mean,
he's got a great spoiler alert. Skip ahead. Great death scene in that movie.
Yeah, really that final scene is great. I think.
Yeah, no, the tip, the La La Land score playing in the background. Yeah, it's all working. Yeah, it's all working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's not really his movie, and in a lot of ways, like it should. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's almost there for me.
Yeah,
it's almost there.
It's a really good flawed movie.
Yeah. I think people who think it's a 5-star movie are more appreciating like the scale and scope of what it took to make that movie rather than what's actually on the screen.
I think that's fair.
Which is good for them.
Yeah. No, whatever floats your boat.
Do you have any other Brad Pitt roles to hit?
I don't think I do. I
got a couple more to shout out. I don't need to talk about them for too long.
No, sure. If you want to give him a shout.
13 is an underrated movie at this point. It's no
Ocean's
12.
13.
It's no 11.
I haven't seen it.
There's a lot of great work in 13. Some great Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Al Pacino as like a spray tanned casino owner is really, really funny. Cool. Ellen Burstyn. He's good in that. Spy Game. Have you ever seen Spy Game?
I wanted to watch Spy Game for this, and
that would have been the perfect movie to watch for this too. Yeah. It's not one of the top 5 Brad Pitt movies, not one of the top 5 Tony Scott movies, not one of the top 5 Robert Redford.
Scott, yeah.
Not one of their top 5s, maybe top 10s for a few of them.
Yeah.
But that movie I've seen like 7 times. It's so fun. It's pretty unrealistic, but it
looks
really,
awesome.
really fun.
I want to watch it. I have not seen it.
Him and Redford doing Spy Games.
Yeah.
It's great. And then Allied, dude. A little bit slept on.
People are telling me this. I haven't seen it.
It's not great, but it's like
it could be a lot worse.
Opening shot of the movie, Brad Pitt, World War II, paratroops into like the African forest. And you're just like, well, this isn't going to be a bad movie.
Yeah. You've clearly done this.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's pretty good though.
I remember really wanting to see it.
I'll tell you what, if you're sick and you're just in bed or something, or it's just like nothing's going on and you just don't want to use your brain, just throw on Allied. That's kind of the perfect time for it. Get some DoorDash, throw on Allied.
That is Zemeckis' last good movie.
Yeah.
Though you wept through here, is that right? Did you cry through the movie here?
I did. I shed a couple tears from here.
That doesn't necessarily mean you liked it.
Dude, here, wait, I got a story for you now. A little bit of a story.
Whoa.
On Sunday night, I met Eric Roth, legendary screenwriter.
Oh, really?
Of Forrest Gump and Here. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Shook his hand. Very lovely guy.
Where?
Friend of the pod, Josh Aud, is now a member of Soho House, which I got a couple questions about.
Cool.
And he goes like, dude, they're screening. Do you see my letterbox? I watched Forrest Gump over the weekend.
I didn't see this.
They are screening Forrest Gump in a screening room at Soho House, and they're doing a Q&A with Roth after.
Wow.
I was like, Eric Roth, like one of the greats.
Yeah.
Still working at the highest of levels. Like, I was like, I'm not doing anything Sunday night. I'll go to this. Screening itself was pretty disastrous in terms of the like they fucked up the projections. They're playing it off of Amazon Prime. The color grading was off. People were texting and talking.
That's what you pay for.
It's what it's kind of like, it was like the Soho House of screenings.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Josh and I were very respectful for them.
Obviously.
Eric Roth, great Q&A after.
Really?
Great Q&A after. Okay. Yeah. He was like such a lovely guy and was like super like
nice.
Super like not afraid to like just like talk shit about things, which was really funny.
Yeah.
In a very respectful way.
Yeah.
He didn't talk Allied, unfortunately. But
bullshit.
Did he write Allied? I don't think he did.
I can.
That's just a Zemeckis movie. That. Yeah. He wrote Here though.
He did write Here.
But he said when he talked about Here, he was like, "Yeah, I don't think it completely worked." But
he didn't write Allied, but he did write Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
He did? Let's fucking go, dude.
Did he do an hour on that?
He did an hour on Benji. I should have told him we were doing this. Wow. But I'm droning on. He talked about Here. He's like, yeah, it didn't really work. But I thought that the idea was really, really good. And Zemeckis was really like, he took a good shot at it.
Yeah.
And he was like on the camp of like, I think this movie will be remembered better than it was made fun of.
Yeah.
Which I do too, because it's a good script.
Yeah.
And it's good direction, good performances. It's just, obviously limited by Zemeckis' lack of touch with the technology he's using, which seems to be his problem now.
Yeah.
But this is the funny one. So Forrest Gump played. It was mostly about Forrest Gump, right? He won the Oscar for Forrest Gump, all this stuff. And they were talking about Forrest Gump 2, which you could read the script online for, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true.
It's available, and they didn't do it. And the reason has always been, after 9/11, they felt that they couldn't figure out how to make the movie in the way that tonally that they were going to make it, right?
Yeah.
They were like, 9/11 kind of killed it. So, dude, Eric Roth gets up on here and he's like, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I'll tell you what. If Tom Hanks should be thanking Robert Zemeckis for not making Forrest Gump 2. Because I'll tell you what, knowing Zemeckis, Bobby would have put Forrest Gump in the second tower. And that would have been the end of him. And I quote, that's what he said.
That is hilarious. Roth, you dog.
Dude, he's like, he would have put Gump up in the second tower. Imagine, dude.
He's going to visit Haley Joel Osment up in the second tower, who's a Wall Street banker.
Imagine that's how Forrest Gump died.
Dude.
Unbelievable shit right there.
He's right next to Pattinson in Remember Me.
Dude, I was doing 20 minutes of Forrest Gump, like, narrating, narrating, but instead of him dying, it was like, it's like a 9/11 truther story, where he's like, I was up in that plane, and I was up in that building, and then all of a sudden I heard a lot of loud noises. He's like, I woke up, and I was with a man who said he wasn't the president, named Dick Cheney. Real felt like the president, though. I met a few before. He said, good work up there, son. It's just like, wait.
Apparently, I'd saved about 35 different individuals. I'd passed out from smoke inhalation.
Oh my God.
A third act in the tower. Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. That'd have been crazy. I mean, that's literally the Robert Pattinson movie, Remember Me?
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude. Forrest Gump 2, ending with 9/11. That from the writer's mouth himself.
That is awesome stuff.
Yeah, that was such a tangent. Sorry.
You're lucky. You're lucky to have witnessed that. And now are all of you listeners.
Yeah, I just broke news right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to be aggregated.
Yeah. Eric Roth says Forrest Gump should have died in 9/11. That's a new story. Should we clip this?
Probably.
Picture this: you're at work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Who friggin' knows? And then ding, an email comes into the inbox. It's the Pioneer newsletter. You read through it. You say, God damn, if that wasn't a cold cocktail for my inbox. Sign up today at thepioneer.online. That's thepioneer.online. All right, back to the show.
So we're going to do something a little differently for the pitches.
Yeah.
Instead of going shot clock 5 minutes, Brad Pitt in 2019 should do.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of just like talk through a couple ideas we got.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how Brad Pitt would like pitches to go.
I think so.
As we talked about here.
Yeah.
A little more of a cerebral hang.
We're hanging 10.
Yeah.
We're letting loose.
Just kind of like we got a little frozen ice right here. We're at the dog track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you probably have noticed the utter silence
from Brad Pitt himself.
From Brad, who's not here.
He's in Florida with his family.
Yeah, producer Tanner / Brad Pitt is in Florida right now, and we wish him a happy 4th.
Yeah, we're in an empty studio.
Mm-hmm.
And his presence is really missed. I feel like he would have brought up Megamind a couple times if he was here.
And he would have been right to do that.
As Brad Pitt's defining role.
He's great.
Yeah.
In Megamind.
Does Tanner like The Lost City? I feel like he probably likes it.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah. I like that movie. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave this in.
Anyway.
So we're going to have a pitch conversation.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first?
Give him hell. Go first.
All right. I'm going to start with my looser idea, but I think it's pretty good. I have nothing written down about this idea.
Cool.
All right, Brad Pitt. He's like, the perfect looking guy, perfect, cool, charismatic, right?
Yeah.
So imagine, first of all, I want Brad Pitt to play a con man again. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
I know that's like a little bit of recycled territory because he's kind of a con man in Fight Club. He's convincing Edward Norton that he's,
to
Brad
do all
Pitt.
this shit.
Yeah. Trying to bury it a little bit there.
Yeah.
And then he's obviously playing a con man in the Ocean's movies.
Yeah.
But I think there's room for another confidence man here.
Yeah.
I think that the way to do it is to twist it. So, like, I've got this idea, right? Brad Pitt, he works in a menial job. He's like a remote menial job worker. And he's single and he's older. And he's like abroad, right? On a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets this woman who's like an heiress to a great fortune, right? And he's like, interacts with her, and it's very Ocean's 12-ish, the type of way. He's super charming. But here's the thing. Brad Pitt is blind. Born blind.
Wow.
So imagine Brad Pitt doesn't know he looks like Brad Pitt.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
And this woman, she's asking about his backstory, and he's like, I was married and all this kind of stuff. And you could tell that he's kind of had this like fine but middling life. Like not a life that you would believe someone who looks like Brad Pitt would live. Because someone who looks like Brad Pitt seemingly would just become rich and famous instantly. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that he hasn't become that is because he doesn't know he looks like Brad Pitt.
He doesn't know.
So she's like, man, like really, like this guy's incredible, you know? So they fall in love, all right, over the course of this movie. And it's like this sweeping romance. And you think it's a movie about Brad Pitt, like learning about his external beauty and that kind of like combining with like this like humility inside, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like this sweeping character drama. But here's the twist at the end, is that Brad Pitt's a fucking con man.
Nice.
And he's not blind.
He's not blind at all. Yeah, that's good.
Isn't that good?
That's fun. Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit. I thought about it on the car ride over here.
Do you have any ideas of who's like?
Yeah, she gotta be like a little older.
Yeah.
It's Carrie Condon. But
that was great.
I don't know. Should him and Zeta Jones get back together for this one?
What does
she's
Jones
not doing too much in 2019.
Yeah.
What about like? I don't know. I mean, it would be crazy if they did this. It seems like they're good friends, but they would never do this. Is if him and Aniston did this role.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
If that was the time to do it. Too.
Yeah.
Like 2019, they were doing
that Zoom reunion thing.
Yeah, that's right. It's that following year. Like that's when they started like being linked back to each other. Like,
yeah, they started saying hi to each other on the red carpet. Yeah. I thought for some reason I thought like an ex-girlfriend of his would be kind of a funny person to do this with, like Paltrow or something like that.
Paltrow's interesting too, but again, also what does she really act? Does she act?
She would do something like, well, she's hooking up with Timmy Chalamet, and
she's doing Marty Supreme.
The next like apex of Timothy Chalamet is like, I'm gonna like hook up with a 50-year-old Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah,
cool, dude.
Awesome.
But I mean, dude, just like the usual suspects twist at the end. You'd be like, oh my God, he's not blind and he stole all of her money.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty good.
There is something I think incredibly elusive of like, oh my God, like Brad Pitt doesn't know he's Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But then like, and it's almost so elusive that you want to believe it, you know?
Yeah.
And then in the end, you're like, oh.
He knew.
Yeah.
He knew he was fucking Brad Pitt.
Also, he doesn't play a lot of evil people.
No.
He doesn't get to a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, not really. Even when he's like
he's Tyler Durden, he's kind of a
you're always kind of rooting for him.
Yeah, which is I think the version of this that I want to go with. Yeah. I think this might be like a returning with our guy. Could be. I think Soderbergh wouldn't play it straight enough.
Yeah.
Or maybe he would. Soderbergh actually does respect a good.
He's been pretty straight and narrow the last couple.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Like Black Bag was kind of like the first, like where I like it zags a little more than I thought it would. It was like it's pretty buttoned up.
Yeah.
But it's having fun, not to an Ocean's level, but like in watching, I was like,
I gotta watch it again.
I really liked it.
I thought Soderbergh was not having enough fun with it.
I think he could have more.
Yeah.
But I thought he was. I thought
this is like
not enough.
This is a talented Mr. Ripley style type shit. You know, the fits are gonna be off.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna start out in like a super boring fit.
Yeah.
Maybe like, like khakis, like Dockers khakis and like a flannel or something. And then like once he gets put on by Paltrow or whoever it's going to be, he's going to start pulling up in crazy fits.
Yeah.
And she's going to like make him into the image of what she sees for him, which is like kind of, I guess, the Brad Pitt 2025 red carpet experience maybe.
Yeah.
But
could you go Fincher here?
I think you could definitely do Fincher here. I think Fincher would really, this is a very Gone Girl-esque type thing for Fincher. I have Fincher for my next pitch.
Okay.
So that's why I was a little...
He's pretty neck deep in Mank right now. he's in Mank.
He's scratching fake digital film negatives for Mank right now.
Yeah. He's pretty in it.
Do you like Mank?
That's the only Fincher movie I haven't seen.
I think you'd like it.
I do too.
I like Mank.
I don't have Netflix anymore,
actually.
so every time I go back to Nashville, I suggest we watch Mank with my dad who has Netflix, and he has never wanted to.
It's by far my least favorite Fincher movie, but this is, my floor with Fincher is that I still thoroughly enjoy Mank.
Yeah. Yeah, I missed it when it came out.
Actually, Button might be my least favorite. I don't know.
Button is currently.
Anyway.
I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. That's my first Pitt pitch.
I dig.
Yeah.
I'll give you my first idea. I'll start with the one I like a little bit less, or just the one that's not as clean a fit for Pitt, I think.
Okay.
Is this comes from I believe this was a Rosillo pod I listened to way back when. There was like a...
You see that Instagram photo of him putting up shots?
It's awesome. And they all went in, I'm sure. But there was he was like talking with like a football scout and just like about the football scouting world, which was already... and it was like, can we send him back to the sports realm? Like, because Pitt is a really nice fit in the sports world. But the reason that this isn't quite as clean a fit is because... Well, the idea is about a professional football scout that is going and scouting like players that are about to be, in the upcoming draft. And I remember in this Rosillo episode, this scout was talking about like, we will go back, we'll send people to like their hometowns and they'll like talk to their families, talk to their high school football coaches. Like, it's like you're like assembling like a profile on an athlete in a way that like a detective would. And I was always like, that's a really interesting world of like treating like an athlete like you're casing them.
Seven meets Moneyball.
Yeah. And I was like, what if I always thought the idea was of like a scout going back to like a small town and unearthing a real scandal with a player that somehow hasn't gotten out. And it's like,
oh, so it's really pessimistic.
Yeah. And it's like, and so, he's like, I think this kid is like, this kid's raw. He's like a freak athlete.
Yeah.
I think he's a terrible guy. I don't think we can draft this kid. And then just like the organization being like
we need to.
No, this is the guy. This is the guy. And I always thought just like the idea of like a scout like going into like this old town and just being like, hey, like, what do you think? What do you think of old Bobby?
And it's like Brad Pitt.
Yeah. And so that's where I was like, yeah, you can't really send Brad Pitt as like a low-level scout. Like, that's why Adam Sandler in Hustle works. Because you're like, he's kind of schlubby. Brad Pitt's like the coolest looking guy ever.
Yeah, but you could just switch the environment. It doesn't need to be going into buttfuck nowhere.
Yeah, that's true.
This could be like an inner city thing.
Yeah.
Or like, it also, maybe the way to do it with Pitt is like, he's going to like IMG Academy. So like everyone there is like super buttoned up and
they've had PR training since they were 11.
Yeah. And Pitt's like meeting them at that level.
Yeah.
That was something that I liked about F1 is that all of his ridiculous clothing and like hair dye, not that he looked bad at all. I think he looked great. But like everyone's ridiculous fits, it fits so well into the world of F1.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
Like, that guy Sonny Hayes definitely dresses like that.
Yeah. He was well dressed.
Yeah. But yeah, so this could work for this, I think.
Yeah, I think there's just I've always thought that was an interesting world to set a story in, of treating, like the intersection between like athletics and like what they're putting into their research process for athletes, like understanding an athlete and like where they come from and like ultimately like what schools and communities will gloss over, to say the least, for certain athletes.
So you want him to be a bad dude, because there's the inverse of this, where it's like Pitt finding, the hidden talent who's like, finding the guy who everyone thinks is a bad guy and him like exonerating him.
That's interesting too. That's probably like, something Pitt would like more.
He could
certainly
like To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, he's like that. He's innocent. I just think it's a complicated story, obviously, because it's like, what did he do wrong? What's wrong with this kid?
Yeah,
like,
he's also like 17. What are you gonna have him do?
And so it's like,
tax evasion.
Yeah.
It's like a 17-year-old who's got like a white collar crime rap sheet.
He's got $600 of unpaid parking tickets.
He's been running like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. The guy runs like an Echo Shield, like pyramid scheme thing.
This guy's selling fighting bracelets on the side.
It's just like, I always liked the world, and I think that he's an because he brings like such a, he's got like such a disarming personality to people, where it's like, if he's going to ask you questions, you'd be like, I'll let loose.
Yeah.
To this guy, like, I'll answer some of your questions, and then it's like, oh, I may have said a little too much there. And
yeah.
Him like starting to be like, there's really something up with this.
I think this fits. I think you can do this.
I think it's interesting. And
I like it.
I think I can tie it all the way back to Russillo.
Okay.
I think Russillo can be in the movie too.
I love that. I think Russillo would love to get in front of the camera.
Yeah.
For the right reasons.
He'd be incredible.
Is Russillo maybe writing this movie too? We know he's got a screenwriting career on the side.
Yeah, he should do it.
Does he have an agent? Like, is Russillo like repped by like UTA? Like,
I think he's got to be at that level. I think you like have to be,
because I know he has an agent for podcasting and stuff. But like, is he calling up like Marty at CAA and being like, "Hey, Fincher liked my script."
Yeah. Any word on that script I sent over a couple months ago?
Any word on that Civil War 3-on-3 basketball script I sent over?
Did that Mark Twain project move forward? No interest on the Grover Cleveland project?
I got a new idea, by the way.
Okay.
It's Brad Pitt playing Ryan Russillo in the Ryan Russillo story.
Yeah, that gets greenlit yesterday.
The underdog radio guy from Boston.
God.
Who ends up making it all.
He's from Boston? I didn't know
He's
that.
from like Martha's Vineyard.
Okay.
Think. Yeah. Pitt in the Russillo story, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just called Russillo.
Like, yeah, it's like Steve Zahn's in there. He's like, "Hi, my name's Bill Simmons."
Zahn as Simmons is good.
He's like, "Would you like to do Sundays with me?" Anyway.
That's good. Who's Zach Lowe? Who's playing Lowe? Who's fantasy? Okay. Anyway, that movie has no name. I don't know who directs that.
I'm gonna be thinking about casting Zach Lowe for a couple years now.
You know what? That's good. Keep that in the back burner. You know what I actually would think would be interesting for this is like Derek Cianfrance.
Yeah. I was so bummed. I saw the Pool Man trailer and it seems
the
like
Roofman.
Roofman, sorry.
I liked the trailer. It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I still liked it.
Way sillier than I thought it was going to be. I don't think it's going to be a bad movie. I think it looks good. Like, visually. Mm-hmm. And Tatum is playing a character that he has played well in the past.
Yeah.
And I trust Derek Cianfrance and love
Place Beyond the Pines.
No, but yes,
Valentine.
But, the actress.
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst, yeah. But the trailer felt very Lionsgate-y to me.
Yeah, it was a weird trailer.
It's like there's just some people who are so bad at making trailers and make so many trailers. Make them all for Lionsgate.
To me it felt very they'd purposefully leaned into the zaniness, and I do think that I think when you have Tatum, you're always gonna have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like in the back half of that trailer, I was feeling a little bit of the darker energy, and I was like,
it's definitely there.
Yeah, I was like, I'm really excited for that.
Fucking made Blue Valentine. This guy lived in a house with Gosling for a month.
Yeah, he's not a joker. Not much of a jokester.
I like this for Cianfrance though.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
He loves going into towns.
Or maybe put Bennett
Miller.
Maybe put Bennett Miller back.
Where is Bennett Miller?
He hasn't made a movie since Foxcatcher.
It's unbelievable. Is Bennett Miller like our just like the sleeping giant of directors?
There's a line about him on Wikipedia. I know this because I saw it yesterday. Where it's like Bennett Miller, like he basically like owns nothing. He's like, I've never owned a car and I've never owned like an apartment. Like
Jesus,
he's just like a nomad traveling. Like every 10 years he checks in with Hollywood.
Yeah, I've seen Capote. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
and Moneyball. It's like, dude, if you made that the way that he made it, too, it's like, I just like keep fucking making movies. Man.
I wonder if I don't know if this needs to go in the episode. I wonder if it's if it's a personality thing.
It might be. Yeah.
I wonder if, I feel like I saw that once on Reddit where it's like, fucking Bennett Miller. And I was like, what's on Bennett Miller? How do we know anything about this guy? But anyway,
But him and Russillo are at Shellback Tavern right now in Manhattan Beach.
Crushing them.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your next?
Next one, I've got a name for this one actually too.
Whoa, okay.
It's called Ultra, all right?
Okay.
And this one was my Fincher movie that I wanted to lock him into. So let's say the last one was Soderbergh, this one's Fincher.
Okay.
All right, so I watched a YouTube documentary about this guy, Max Joliffe, I think his name is.
Okay.
I forgot how to pronounce his last name. He's an ultra marathon runner, all right?
Okay.
He did like the Moab 240 or 200 miler or something like that. You run through the Moab desert 200 something miles. He broke the record. It's unbelievable. The doc itself, I think, was not made by like the best of filmmakers, but they accomplished what they needed to do, which was like capture this dude fucking running for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, man, running is very cinematic. Don't get a lot of running movies.
No.
Pretty repetitive. But I was watching Forrest Gump where he runs for 3 years, and I'm like, you know what? It's ridiculous, but it's kind of electric, that scene.
Yeah.
Especially where they shoot him in practical locations and he's running in the Rocky Mountains and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what a Brad Pitt post Once Upon a Time. He's taking these roles where he wants to kind of de-age himself. He goes Bullet Train, and he's kind of taking roles where you're like, this guy still wants to be in the cockpit or behind the driver's seat in a lot of ways. It's like, imagine like we just get a survival movie with Brad Pitt.
Interesting.
Like Castaway style. So like Ultra is basically Castaway meets J.C. Chandor's All Is Lost.
Yeah.
Meets For the Love of the Game meets Forrest Gump.
Wow.
And I'm gonna explain this all to you.
Okay.
All right? So this guy. So we're gonna start out All Is Lost style. Brad Pitt. He's a guy Dexter Farnsworth. He's like alone in the Bering Sea, like north around Alaska, like deep sea salmon fishing. Right. It's like extreme. You could tell this guy's like he's like extreme, lives on the edge, very wealthy as well. Right. And it's kind of that All Is Lost thing where you're like, why is this guy so alone? He seems like he's done well for himself. He's obviously super charming and charismatic. And you're like, all right, this guy's fighting some demons, but he's figuring it out. And this hurricane comes, basically smokes his boat, washes up to shore. All right. So now we're kind of castaway-ish. So he's like alone on this like remote Alaskan island.
Okay.
And it's like fall, so it's like it's not like there's like 10 feet of snow, but he's basically can receive this information of like he knows where he is, because he's got like a Garmin watch or something. All right, so he like knows where he is, and he knows some of like the current weather predictions, and he's like, I know that there's like a NATO weather outpost on the other side of this island. It's 200 miles away, and I also know that there's like the first blizzard of the season coming in. And I have no way to contact anyone.
Okay.
So the only way I get there is if I run 200 miles in 3 days. So it turns into like a survival ultra marathon running movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, so he starts fucking running. You know?
Yeah.
And like, maybe this guy's like a former Olympian. Like that's the way that we prove that he can do this.
Sure.
Like on the boat, he's got the medals and shit.
Yeah.
And that might also describe like why his life went a little haywire, is because he was like dealing with the fact that he wasn't the fastest man in the world anymore, or the best athlete in the world. And I think that kind of like plays into the mythology. And he's going to start running, right? So he's like ultra marathon running through the fucking wilderness. All right.
Nice.
Maybe we got like a couple like bare hand fishing scenes in there.
Cool.
Sleeps for like 30 minutes, wakes up. But when you run this long, you start hallucinating. Like that's a real thing. So like, this is kind of where like this turns into like a weird fucked up version of For the Love of the Game.
Okay.
Because in the Costner For the Love of the Game, where he's like pitching the perfect game and it keeps flashbacking to this like love story of his life.
Is that what this? I've never seen it.
Oh, you've seen it?
No.
Oh, so it's Sam Raimi.
I know
and
it's
John
like
C. Reilly and Kevin Costner.
Is that the structure of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like a fun movie. It's
Okay.
not as good as other baseball movies, but like he's pitching a perfect game and it's intercut with like not his life story, but like this one romance in his life, basically.
Okay. Is it Kelly Riley or something?
It's not Kelly Riley. It's
Is it Kelly Preston?
Kelly Preston.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
I knew it was a Kelly.
You know a lot about this movie.
I love Sam Raimi. It's just, and it's like his.
Janusz Kaminski shot it, right?
Is that right? It's like it's a random Raimi too, or it's like and he just did a baseball.
And it's so
movie.
weird how like well he shoots it too, where you're like, Like, he shoots the baseball really well in this.
He should make more movies.
And you're like, why are you making Doctor Strange, dude?
Yeah.
Like, like, what are you doing?
He didn't make a movie for like 10 years.
I don't know what's going on with Sam Raimi, man. I mean, like, especially like Spider-Man. I'm new to Spider-Man, but I'm like, those movies work, man.
He's so good.
Anyway, so maybe Sam Raimi makes his movie. No,
Yeah,
but
give it to Raimi.
But he's running and he starts hallucinating. You know, it's cold, lack of sleep, lack of food. And he's like, so like, instead of For the Love of the Game, where it's like very literal flashbacks to a love story,
Yeah.
it's like hallucinogenic. We're not sure if this happened or not. They're like Nolan-esque Inception dreams where
Okay.
you're like, this doesn't tie in. So we're constantly trying to piece together and parcel together, as he is himself, his own, like, remembering his own failures in life. Right?
Okay.
So it's like kind of fucking weird and avant-garde.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of took Fincher into it, where I was just rewatching Fight Club and I'm like, I forgot how good he is at doing the hallucinogenic shit. He does this in Gone Girl a little bit.
Fincher does?
Yeah, with what's her name, Underwater.
Yeah.
He's kind of good at that. He doesn't do it a lot though.
Yeah.
He does it in The Game a little bit too.
Yeah, there's some game.
But anyway, so it's like these weird, like, Fincher's doing crazy technical shit.
Yeah.
And it's these flashbacks to his ex-wife. So I've got Catherine Zeta-Jones. I wanted to put him with Zeta-Jones somewhere, right? And then I got his mistress. So he's like had an affair. It's Zoe Saldana. So we got a little of that.
Whoa.
He's got his son, Jesse Plemons.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we like kind of are we're piecing it together, but like I don't want to get too literal with it.
Okay.
And then like he like makes it, and it's like a survival story, and it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's cool.
I wanted like a little twist at the end, like, because like, you know what's so good about Castaway is that like once he gets off the island, the movie like doesn't stop cooking. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I was trying to like figure out that, because I guess there's one version of this that's the All Is Lost, where it's like the hand grabs him and the movie's over.
Yeah.
Or there's the other version where it's like you get kind of an ending. you know?
Yeah. You're like, what now? What do I
Yeah.
do now? Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that would attract him because he gets to play an active, like he's a runner, like he's like an athlete.
Yeah.
While also it's like, you know, he's clearly a little bit past his prime. Like you're like you shouldn't be doing this. You're probably gonna die.
There's only like 3 or 4 actors that we would sit on screen with for 2 hours as they're running.
Yeah, it would be tough.
It'd be a tough one
because it's I mean, running, you're breathing, like it's like
leave it to Fincher though, man.
Yeah, I'm not against it. You could maybe throw Fassbender into that camp too. I think you could watch Fassbender.
Could do this. Yeah.
I think Fassbender could run for a year straight and not breathe.
I think he's running right now.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's right there. Yeah, I mean, it's a small camp. I think Brad Pitt could do it.
Do you think that there's an ending where it's like maybe like he's like right before the hurricane hits, he's like finally gonna call, or he's like leaving a voicemail with his ex-wife? I don't like Zeta-Jones actually. I actually want to go someone else, but maybe like Julianne Moore. Well, I used her last week actually.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyway, but like he's like trying to call. He's leaving a voicemail. I don't know, maybe that's it, and then they reconnect at the end. But that's a little too clean. Maybe start hooking up with the woman at the NATO place.
That'd be good.
He shows her pocket kings. She's like, well, now I'll have to sleep with you.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
That was unintentionally the funniest moment of F1, by the way.
Yeah.
That was so fucking funny. Where it's just like, I could imagine them in a room, like, how are we going to get Pitt and Condon to like want to sleep with each other in this movie? We don't have a lot of time.
He's like, holy shit, he had
like,
kings the whole fucking
He's like, wait, I'm going to pretend to lose. And then be like, psych, pocket kings, let's screw.
Yeah, and you could see it come from a mile away.
Yeah, you're like, you guys didn't deserve this, but at the same time, you definitely deserve this.
Yeah.
Carrie Condon, she's like, I'm an astrophysicist. I'm like, I fucking screamed at this guy for an hour straight.
Yeah.
Pocket kings. All right, let's fuck.
All right. Any other tricks up your sleeve? Show me. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
I'd like to see Condon with him again.
Should we put Condon in this?
Yeah, bring her back.
All right.
I like them together a lot.
Condon's up in Alaska.
Cool.
Yeah. Pocket kings.
Yeah, I'm about it.
I can't move my body. I'm malnourished and I've run 240 miles, but just go slowly, please.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Also, we don't get Fincher outside a lot.
No.
But then when we do, it's cool.
Yeah. it's cool when he makes movies. I like him. I like him to keep doing it. I like to keep getting those.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. The last idea I have, and again, it's a world more so than it is. There's not much to it, but I was like, I think this setting is perfect for Pitt. And it comes from the basis of it. It comes from two things. One, Wild Card with Jason Statham,
which I still have not seen it,
which I spoke glowingly of.
Glowingly, yeah.
Played from Pluto TV. And the second part was something it was some podcast I was listening to where they talked about the idea. It was probably Bill Simmons, but it was like the idea of like seasonal Vegas gamblers. These people that come into Vegas and are like basically live in Vegas for almost like a truck driver. They come in, they do like 6 months in Vegas, and then they're like, I made my year's money, and then they leave.
So they're like deep sea fishermen, but they're gamblers.
Yeah. And I was like, that is so fascinating. Like, and so I was like, Brad Pitt as like an aging gambler that drives into Vegas, and he's like, okay, I'm starting my 3 month.
It's the Sunny Hayes prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what has he been up to?
Professional gambler.
Yeah. And it's like him going in there, he's like, on this day, I will leave Vegas with my year's worth of money. And it's like how he goes about what he gambles on.
Do these guys have the self-control really to do that stuff?
That's like, that's what was interesting is I remember them talking about like their career gamblers.
Oh, okay. So they're kind of like Totoro in Rounders, where it's like they play it safer because it's like their career. Yeah.
They're not like going in there and it's not like night one. He's like, I fucking lost everything. It's like how can you over the course of 3 months you make a salary's worth of, it's like by placing small bets that get you
Moneyball in Vegas now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like somebody being like, I need a bet that gets me on base. Yeah. And
Billy, this is Chad Renfro.
And so that's just like
he plays blackjack, but he can't speak.
Yeah. He plays blackjack, but he smells. He smells so bad. Everybody hates him in the casino. I think it's like a guy that like is, and I think it's like he has to have a thing. I don't know that he's not like, I think he does like cards for fun, but I think it's like he's like a sports gambler. So
this fits with sports gambling.
Yeah, so he's like, and it's like he's playing along with a season. So it's like he's like a football season's worth where he goes in and it's like, each week he's like, okay, Thursday night I'm taking this.
Football would work well with this because there's a smaller amount of games over a long period of time. Yeah,
I think I just like thought the world of like also seeing like Pitt in Vegas as like
once again
where he belongs, but like in that kind of Statham way in Wild Card where he's a guy that's kind of over, he's been here too much, especially at this point in his life. He's like, you got to get out of here. You've been here too long. Like you can't keep doing this.
Does he have a way out though?
I think it's like maybe that's in this movie where it's like, every year I come here and I make enough money to get back here the next year. And this time it's like, I need to make enough money to never come back here.
This is the Rounders philosophy.
Yeah, and it's the philosophy of that movie, Wild Card. Is what it's like. Jason Statham's like, I need to make enough money to never have to come back here.
Is there a romance involved with this? What's the motivating factor for never coming back? I guess is it like Wild Card where it's like someone's gonna kill him, or is it like I've fallen in love?
In Wild Card, it's interesting because it's kind of like he just wants to leave. There isn't really a driving like eventually he does end up being chased by goons in Wild Card, but that's not what starts it. He's just like, I want to get out.
Who's the guy who kills someone again? Is it Ed Harris?
Tucci's in there.
Tucci.
Yeah, Tucci's like the owner of a casino.
We should get Pitt and Tucci together.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Tucci's in this one too.
Tucci's in this. He's playing the same guy from Wild Card.
I'm Stanley Tucci.
There's an interesting thing in Wild Card. I guess I'm just trying to think of a way to make Wild Card better with Brad.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's like
Wild Card was, you said, like a little bit of missed potential.
Yeah, this it does work. And like the original version of that movie was with Burt Reynolds. I was like, yeah, that's like late Burt Reynolds is kind of where I think late Pitt should kind of look towards, like doing like a Boogie Nights type role, like a late Burt.
Could this be a PTA movie?
This could be a PTA movie.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I just think
PTA
there's something in that
class
world.
Up the script a little bit,
Yeah. And I like, there's something interesting in Wildcard where it's like they kind of try to shoehorn in this like, you know, mentor mentee thing where it's like Statham is mentoring Michael. He just directed Sacramento.
Oh yeah, Michael
Gianco.
Something like that.
Yeah, but Michael Aragano.
Yeah,
and he tries to come in there, and it's like, and it just like doesn't work.
We're out on that plot.
Yeah,
Let's replace that with the romance.
But well, I think that idea is interesting. Like some guy that like wants to like he like basically is like trying to pass off his skills to somebody so he can get out of there, which I think PTA would do really well. I mean, like bring in like, hell, he brings Cooper Hoffman in there. Hoffman and Pitt.
I'd love to see Hoffman. I mean,
on the poster.
he's like, I can't believe you made my dad trade Carlos Pena.
You fuck. Yeah. I don't know. PTA is a good call. I mean, it's kind of back to his Hard 8.
You traded Pena? Are you mad?
I mean,
anyway, sorry.
It's him doing like Philip Baker Hall Hard 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's Riley's in this too.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah, obviously.
I think that like I think that maybe there's like it's always funny when Brad Pitt's in love.
It is, yeah.
Because it's always like, you're like, what is it about whatever situation he's in that he's like, it's time to settle down?
Yeah.
And how really long are we going to get him to settle down for?
Yeah, like a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be gone in a month.
You know what I could see for this in that vein is the Casino Royale romance plot line where it's like falls in love, does something for love.
Yeah, I got to get out and just live my life with her.
And then gets betrayed by her and then is still like, I should get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to stay out and I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill you and hang out with Cooper Hoffman. Yeah. He's my new son now.
Come on, Coop. Yeah, that's
Can I call you dad?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted about this.
I also, this is just unrelated, but a little bit of travel and nomadish. I kind of want Pitt to just like shot for shot remake Up in the Air just to see what's going on with that.
Yeah, see if he does it better than Clooney. What he brings to it instead of Clooney. But we get Vera Farmiga back.
I think it's the same movie. I just kind of want to see two alternate versions of it. One with, should I like AI Brad Pitt into Up in the Air just to see what it looks like?
I won't tell. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can get that going.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah,
Pitt is really good with cards. We've seen this multiple times.
Yeah, he's great.
He's just good with his hands. You know what I mean?
He is. He's a great. He's a hands guy.
Yeah,
he loves his hands and he's great with them. He's great with those cards in F1. He's great with his hands at every part of the Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12. Like, he's just active hands guy.
Burn After Reading, only movie he's like intentionally uncoordinated in.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny.
Yes,
yeah,
and
he's even good at that.
It's very funny.
Yeah,
he's just a good dude. We've covered it all with Pitt.
This has been great. I hope people enjoyed our 2-hour episode on Pitt right here.
Yeah,
I also like the pitch conversation. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was actually more fun than pitching for 30 seconds.
Well, we came in and we were both like, I don't know that we really have the pitch, and then you pointed out smartly that we don't have a judge today.
Yeah, we don't.
So it's kind of like, let's talk it out. Let's see where we can get.
I wonder how this clips, but that's not for the listeners.
Yeah, that's for our ears only.
That's for the addicted souls on TikTok. Yeah, so F1, good movie.
Good, fun movie. Check it out.
I hope our conversation didn't poo-poo it a little bit.
Yeah, if you're still listening by this point, you heard that we were positive on it. We came around to it.
And check out Pitt in other movies. He's pretty good at this.
Watch Brad Pitt movies.
If you haven't seen Jesse James, I would check it out. That's yours? Spy Game.
You're for Spy Game's what I'm gonna go.
Yeah, check out Spy Game. Dude, we barely mentioned what was the last one I was gonna say? We barely mentioned Troy.
I've never seen it, and I love Wolfgang Peterson.
Electric opening Brad Pitt scene in that.
Is that?
It's like, yes, but they won't remember you. If you just go check it out.
Okay, I need to watch it because I love Wolf.
He slays a beast.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
It's not Wolf's best movie. Brad Pitt does not love it too much, but
how could it be his best movie?
Anyway,
you can't pick.
This has been dope. Brad Pitt, excited to see what he does with Chazelle and David Ayer in Heart of the Beast, which he just wrapped filming.
What is this?
Pitt is working. Dude.
Oh, that's right.
It's the Ayer movie,
written by Chazelle.
Something. I'm concerned about David Ayer. Not that I didn't have fun with Beekeeper or Working Man, but like, He's Brad Pitt gonna make. I mean, he made Fury with him.
That's right.
We need limitations on Ayer, and I feel like maybe Chazelle is not gonna let David Ayer go off and make A Working Man.
This movie has shot. It's done.
This movie is almost. I think it's in the can because he's on the press tour now. They were in New Zealand shooting. It's honestly a little bit like my Ultra movie. It's like a wilderness survival movie.
When does this come out?
I think next year. So basically, he was shooting that movie in New Zealand or Australia, goes on the press tour for F1, and then is done with the press tour for F1 in July. Will immediately start filming the next Cliff Booth movie with Fincher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just announced on an interview that they're going to start shooting that in July.
Wow. I still can't believe that movie's happening.
Are they going to shoot it digitally or are they going to shoot it on film? That's my one question.
I think they're definitely going to go digital. I think Fincher's digital.
I can't see Cliff Booth on digital. And you can quote me on that.
Aggregate that. Yeah, I don't know. I won't believe I'm watching it until I'm watching it, and I'm like, holy shit!
Is Eric Messerschmidt gonna shoot this movie?
Probably.
Yeah.
I trust him.
I trust everyone involved in this movie.
Yeah, I do. It feels wrong.
Yeah,
all of it's just like,
doesn't
really?
Feel right. Yeah.
But it's so interesting.
Yeah.
If it, I mean, it sounds like it is gonna happen.
It's shooting in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Should we try to get on the ground? I mean, it's definitely gonna be in LA.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or Toronto. Or like,
this is gonna be funny. It's gonna be like Cliff Booth, like hand covers bruise, playing. No.
I don't know if I get this.
Harvard 2003.
Okay, no way you did this. Boom. All right, well,
Anyway.
let's get the heck out of here.
Sonny Gray. Oh no, sorry. Sonny Hayes. Best driver in the league. All right. Peace.
Peace.